Obviously, I stream every day answering fantasy questions, and generally I get excited for these. Generally, I have some fun, but today it's not going to be that way. Today, we are going to have to look at some pretty bad news. We're going to have to update some rankings, and we are going to have to I don't even know what you want to call it, but Jayden Daniels considered day to day. Right now, he is at risk for missing this week. So we actually talked about this. I want to say Saturday that Jayden Daniels was reported after the Thursday night game. He was going to go get an MRI on his knee. We didn't really know what to make of it, blah, blah, blah. And it looks like it maybe wasn't the best. If he's in doubt to miss this week, I think you have to be concerned that this possibly limits his mobility going into the future as well. And we don't get the same level of rushing upside that you'd be hoping for if you wanted Jayden Daniels to be the QB1 overall in fantasy. So I recently did move Jayden Daniels down behind Jalen Hurts in my rest of season rankings. The other thing that is interesting to note is JJ McCarthy is going to be expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks. Now, I actually got an offer in the Flock League this morning that I rejected for Jordan Addison based off how bad McCarthy looked last night, and at the same time, the fact that now it looks like Carson Wentz is going to be under center for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, let me know if y'all think I made a mistake with this. I'll let you know what the offer was. I have Cam Scatterbo on my bench right now, and Nathan offered me Jordan Addison. Obviously, we're looking at Cam Scatterbo taking over as a starting running back for the New York Giants. Can y'all please let me know in the chat right now, with the McCarthy injury, with Scatterbo taking over as the starter in New York, who would you rather have rest of season? Would you rather have Cam Scatterbo or would you rather have Jordan Addison? And I will say, it's not like Carson Wentz is going to be the worst backup quarterback to ever come in and fill in, right? Let's go. We got Scatterbo, Addison, Cam, Addison, Cam. Yeah, I needed a wide receiver, but even I was like, yeah, you know what? There's just no way. I mean, I'm dealing with the pain of I started TJ Hawkinson back-to-back weeks. It looks like I'm going to lose my matchup this week because freaking TJ Hawkinson couldn't score 10 points. So, yeah, I just want nothing to do with this Minnesota Vikings offense. And I do want to say we've officially moved Jefferson, where he's no longer a tier 1 wide receiver in our rest of season rankings. And then, yes, we moved Hawkinson down our rest of season rankings to the point where you're probably just cutting TJ Hawkinson. Now, let's go over and let's look at what else we have. So Aaron Jones, not likely to play week 3. So obviously this is going to be bumping up Jordan Mason, where it looks like Jordan Mason's probably going to be a must-start running back off of volume and volume alone this next week, even if you have no McCarthy. And then Bears corner going to miss of the rest of this season. So the coach in Cleveland says with Judkins' debut, I thought he did a nice job with what we asked him to do, certainly capable of doing more. Yeah, Judkins is just the long-term starting running back here in Cleveland. And then I think that's about it for the injury updates that we need to make. But Fields remains in concussion protocol. Jamar Chase games with the starting quarterback other than Joe Burrow, 2 for 26, 4 for 81. And then you have the blow up, 149 and a receiving touchdown. Then 3 for 29, 4 for 64, 3 for 41, 4 for 19. So I'm also going to be moving Jamar Chase down into being a tier 2 wide receiver, because also you are not going to have Joe Burrow for the next 3 months. Now, maybe Burrow comes back for the Bengals in the NFL playoffs. Just you do the math, though. 3 months is 12 weeks. We are already in week 3 effectively. So you're hoping that you get Joe Burrow back in like week 15, week 16. So you're hoping you get him back for the fantasy football playoffs, which is probably not going to happen, right? So we need to be moving Jamar Chase down our rankings as well. And then I think that's about it for the injury update. So let me go through, and I know we're going to get to these questions on the site pretty soon, but I definitely want to prioritize updating our rest of season rankings for y'all. We'll have the explanation with the video coming out in our rest of season wide receiver rankings video, probably in the next few hours. But I wanted to go through and show you where I have these guys positionally. So looking at what we have with the quarterback position in our rest of season ranks, as of right now, I do have Joe Burrow as somebody that obviously if you have an IR spot, you can go through and you can throw him on your IR. But if you don't have a spot on your IR, you are just going to effectively be cutting Joe Burrow. We've moved Burrow down to like QB 26 in the same tier with Rodgers to Darnold. These are the quarterbacks that clearly should be on your waiver wire. I don't want to move him much lower than this because if you have an IR slot, he's worth the IR slot, and obviously you'd want to throw him there. And in that scenario, you'd way rather have Burrow over Young, Stafford, Ward, McCarthy, Geno. It's hard to rank him generally because, again, if you don't have the injured reserve slot, then at that point, I would say that you want to go through and you want to cut him for sure. Going over and looking at what we have with the running backs, realistically, I'm going to be moving Jordan Mason up based off this injury that we have with Aaron Jones. I'm going to be moving Judkins up with this report and Jordan Mason as well. I think I would rather have Jordan Mason at this point over RJ Harvey, over David Montgomery, over Jalen Warren, over J.K. Dobbins. Like Jordan Mason is looking like a must-start running back this next week. And then obviously Quinshon Judkins on the rise as well. And then I'm going to be moving Aaron Jones down. Realistically, I think I would rather have Cam Scadaboo over Aaron Jones at this point. Hell, I may even rather have like Byshell Tuden and Ramondre Stevenson over Jones with the hamstring. And honestly, yeah, I'm going to move Aaron Jones down to RB39 and Jordan Mason up to RB27. Because if they're already telling us that Aaron Jones is probably not going to play this week, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we don't see Aaron Jones for quite some time. Then going over and looking at the receivers, at this point, I would rather have Malik Neighbors over Jamar Chase. I think we need to move Chase down a tier. And I would rather have Amon-Ra St. Brown over Jamar. Jamar is going to be my wide receiver 5 rest of season. And if we're looking at what we can do with him in comparison to like Nico Collins, JSN, I do want to see what Nico Collins gives us tonight before we entertain moving Nico ahead of Jefferson or Chase. Because keep in mind, week 1, Nico Collins looked horrendous as well. But Jamar and Jefferson are both tier 2 wide receivers for us at this point. I think the tier 1 options are going to be Lamb, Puka, and Neighbors. And then going over and looking at what we have at tight ends, we have moved TJ Hawkinson down to the point where, hell, if you wanted to cut him, I'm fine with it. I have Hawkinson in my own league. I think I would almost rather have Loveland because I'm not starting either guy anytime soon. And at least with Loveland, you can convince me that he's going to get better as time goes on, where I don't know if that's going to be the case with Hawks. So let me submit these on the site. And Dominique says, Mason, where can I check your rankings? So just go to the rankings page on flockfantasy.com, and you're actually about to see something really cool either tonight or tomorrow. This page is going to load in with all the relevant fantasy football statistics. So you'll be able to see that loaded into this page where all this empty space is currently. But if you wanted to see my rankings specifically, just go over to the rankings page on the site, hit this little gear icon because it's default sorted by the expert average. And if you hit Mason Dodd, hit save, and then you can actually see all my rankings and tiers. You can see them positionally. You can see them, you can like do, I just want to compare running backs and wide receivers together. Like you can see them in a bunch of interesting ways. And you're also going to get that other column, those other columns again with all the relevant stats for different positions. So really exciting stuff. And I understand that the questions are turned off on flockfantasy.com right now. You're not able to send them in. I actually have a decent amount of team reviews that we need to get through. And once we get through these team reviews, I'll turn questions on the site, but I want to prioritize the questions that people submitted already. So let's go ahead and let's dive into our first team review. This is going to be from Roundabout. Says, hey Mason, I'm in a best ball league. My league mates aren't really into trades, unfortunately. Let me know if you see an opportunity. Do you see a way we can optimize the lower end of my bench with high upside players? Congrats on the engagement. Love the content. Keep it up. Thank you so much, my guy. And I want to be very clear here for anybody watching this live stream. The advice that we are going to give Roundabout is very much going to be tailored for a best ball format. And it's going to be very different than what you would have in your regular fantasy football league, right? Where if you're in your regular fantasy football league, the guys that you're going to have on the bench that you're really excited about would be players like Ray Davis, Tyler Algier, where if an injury were to occur in front of them, then all of a sudden they can be guys that you can confidently project to put in your starting lineup. However, here in a best ball format, going through and loading up with a bunch of those wide receivers on the bench like Alec Pierce, Jawan Jennings, actually will be very exciting. That way we can go through and we can get these random spikes. And this is going to be a deeper league as well. This is going to be a start 9. Generally, we want to be rostering a multitude of positions. I like the fact that we're rostering 2 quarterbacks here in a best ball format. Like, obviously, you would have never started Josh Allen. You would have never started Daniel Jones going into this week over Josh Allen. But because it's best ball, which means your best starting lineup submitted for you at the end of every single week, then Daniel Jones actually does just slide into your starting lineup. Now, let me send you over some free questions. I don't know if you're able to make waiver wire moves or if this is like a traditional best ball league where you're not allowed to make moves off the waiver wire. I mean, there is no waiver wire loading in like you would see with other teams in the league analyzer, which is a little bit concerning here. If we were to go through and look at doing anything, I will say in general, we are at the top of the league analyzer, right? We are here right in the second spot. Looking at what we have at quarterback, we have the most valuable QB room in this league. I like the fact that we are rostering 2 quarterbacks given the context that this is a best ball draft. Dominique says, for some reason, when I tap the settings, I can't view your rankings, Mason. It looks like you're locked. Oh yeah, if you're not a paid member of the site, you can only view the expert average rankings. I assume that you have the season pass, but if you don't have the season pass, you can still view the expert average on the site, but you won't be able to see my rankings and tiers exactly. But the expert average should still help you out a ton. Now, going over and looking at what we have at running back, we have James Cook, Amari Hampton, which I will say I really need Amari Hampton to have less than like 6 fantasy points tonight. For the love of God, Hampton, fall flat on your face. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who looks viable now that we have the Eckler injury. Cam Scatterbill looks like he is moving up rankings as well. We have Ramadre, we have Rashad White, we have Tyler Algier. So overall, I mean, this is a running back room that we have the production at the very top. Like, we should assume that our team's probably going to end up being 2-0. And the only real concern that we are going to have is maybe the wide receiver position with the injuries impacting it. Like Jamar Chase losing Joe Burrow is going to be significant. Xavier Worthy missing time is going to be significant in best ball. But you have Rome Odunze as the massive breakout. We have the elite tight end still with Bowers. I mean, if we were to do anything, I think the move that we would love to make is if you could potentially just pick up another tight end, very similar, even though we have the elite quarterback here, we have Daniel Jones. I do think you should roster another tight end. It's going to be hard for me to say much else than that because, I mean, you are sitting here with a great, great team. I think if we're looking at the amount of depth that you have at the running back position, here specifically in best ball, I'd like be completely fine if you wanted to go through and if you wanted to trade Ramondre Stevenson away, who obviously is coming off a performance where he did just drop 21 fantasy points and he looked great, obviously. So I know that he slid into your lineup here with the best ball aspect of this. And there may be some other teams that really need help at running back where we don't, where we have James Cook, Martin Hampton, and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt at the top end. If you could flip Ramondre just for another tight end, doesn't even need to be a great one, but like going through and taking a peek at some of the teams here, like if you wanted to flip Ramondre for Jake Ferguson, if you wanted to flip Ramondre for Kelsey, if you wanted to flip Ramondre for Dalton Kincaid, flip Ramondre for Kyle Pitts, I think that would be interesting given the best ball aspect of it. That way, just in case something were to occur with Bowers. I don't know if we have access to making moves on the waiver wire, however. If we did, I wouldn't mind just like dropping Alec Pierce for a waiver wire tight end either. But I definitely think the only thing I could mention is I would like to roster 2 tight ends here if possible. But overall, you have a phenomenal team for a best ball league. Obviously, it looks like we're not the #1 spot in the league analyzer anymore because the Burrow injury impacting the outlook of Jamar Chase. But you're still in a very good spot, and I wish I had more to help you with here, my friend, but I think that there's not really much else to discuss, to be honest. I really do appreciate you. Really hope I was able to help you out in some way. I did send you over those free questions. And yeah, I think you're honestly just going to kind of dominate. I think getting Daniel Jones here as a viable QB2 in best ball is actually going to help a ton. But let's move this over to Average Joe. And this is a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, half PPR league. So generally, having the elite quarterback, having the elite tight end is going to make a pretty big difference. It says, wanted to know who I should target. I dropped the defense of Rachaad White to pick up Hunter and Rome to use as trade bait. Any suggestions? If you just picked up Rome Odunze for free, that is incredible. And it actually looks like we just hit 200 likes on the stream, so we'll go back to Average Joe in just 1 second. But every time we hit 100 likes on the stream, we find a couple people in the live chat and we send them over some free questions on the website. So if you want those free questions, all you got to do is go down to the live chat and drop your flogfantasy.com username. And again, we're going to be giving away free questions every time we hit 100 likes. So I'd highly recommend dropping a like on this live stream and subscribe to the channel, of course, if you're not already. It looks like we have a shot at 300,000 subscribers this season, while at the same time, you do need to subscribe to get those free questions because we need to know what your username is. Okay. But let me pull up the users page on the site, and then we'll send those over. But this is 10 Average Joes. We are the second team in the league analyzer at the moment. We have one of the quarterbacks that are left standing. We are sitting with Lamar Jackson, which obviously is very nice, especially as we were talking about previously. Having the elite level quarterback in a 10-team league where you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, where the wide receiver position is just going to be so easy to come by. Like, we want the elite quarterback here. Let's send a free question to Cougar Bait. Cougar Bait, I cannot find you on the site. I can only find you on the site if you have code FLOCK with your account. You can add that to your account page if you haven't put a code already. Caching 2K, however, I did just find you on the site, and we did just send you over a free start set question. Thank you so much for hanging out with us in the stream. And let's find somebody else in the chat to give a free question to. We got Formal Sifu. Just found you and just sent you over that free question. Again, thank you so much for hanging out with us in the stream. And yeah, and please somebody in the chat remind me when we hit 300 likes. That way we can go over and we can look at sending out some more free questions. But anyway, here running back, we have Genty, we have Brees, we have Judkins breaking out at the same time Tyron Tracy just turned to dust. So running back's okay. Is it the strength of the team? Of course not. But realistically, you need to go through and you need to make some trades. Neighbors wide receiver 1, JSN wide receiver 2, London wide receiver 3. We have 3 quality wide receivers that we can trust every single week in a league where you can only start 3 wide receivers at the very most. So you're telling me that we have Rome, we have Travis Hunter, we have Devonta Smith, and we have Ricky Pearsall down on our bench. Now, obviously, the first thing that we try to do here is we try to go through and we try to sell Devonta Smith. We try to sell Ricky Pearsall and move them in a 2-for-1 deal with Brees Hall and go get an up tier at running back. Is there a world in which we can sell Brees Hall and Devonta Smith for Chase Brown? Can we sell Brees Hall and Travis Hunter for Bucky Irving? Can we sell them for Josh Jacobs? Can we sell them for Achane? That's going to be plan A for sure. But the reality of the situation is going to be you're probably not going to be able to find a ton of intrigue for people to trade for Devonta Smith, Travis Hunter, Ricky Pearsall. And what we're probably ended up having to do is we're probably going to end up needing to sell the elite level wide receivers. Not because I don't like them, but more so because we know that we are going to have suitors for Malik Neighbors. We know that we're going to have suitors for Jackson Smith-Njigba. We know that we're going to have suitors for Drake London. So, like, if we could go through and sell Drake London and get back in return a player like Brock Bowers, let's go for it. If we could go through and if we could send Jackson Smith-Njigba and in return, get back an option. I don't know, like send JSN and Breece Hall and get back Bijan, Gibbs, Barkley, McCaffrey. Let's go for it. Because then the options that you have on your bench, like Rome Odunze, Travis Hunter, I mean, Rome slides into your flex spot, and the points per game drop off that you're going to get from like Rome Odunze in the flex is not going to outweigh the benefit that you get from jumping from like Breece to CMC. So I think that the move you're trying to make is you try to trade for an elite level tight end, try to send London for either McBride or Bowers, try to send JSN and Breece Hall for a true top 5 RB. And then you can just use that wide receiver depth actually in your starting lineup, and it's not just wasted down there on the bench. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way here. This is a phenomenal team. You just got to find a way in your league settings to transition some of this wide receiver value into those other positions. Now let's move this over to our next question. From Zen, says, Mace, I need to drop someone, Brown or Fannin, and pick up a kicker for the week. Who should we drop to grab a kicker? I'm assuming that you already did that, my friend. I'm sorry that we weren't able to get to this yesterday, but Sunday mornings, typically it is going to be difficult for me to get to the questions right away. But let's go ahead and let's pull this up. So I'll say in general, I am okay rostering 2 quarterbacks if Bo Nix is our QB1, because it's not like Bo Nix is inside the tier where we go, you know what, we're starting this dude every single week regardless of matchup. He's not Allen. He's not Lamar. He's not Hurts. So if you wanted to roster Jordan Love here, I'm fine with it. It's a 10-team league, so in most 10-team formats, quarterbacks on the waiver wire are going to be just fine. Like we have Jared Goff out there on waivers. I think we would probably go through and we would probably drop Jordan Love for Jared Goff, to be honest. And going over and looking at what we have at running back, Tyler Algier looks to be the premium handcuff back where obviously an injury occurs to Bijan Robinson. Tyler Algier is just going to be an absolute must-start running back every single week. Going over and looking at wide receiver, we have Chris Godwin on waivers. So what I would do here is, if you're telling me that we have Brock Bowers, we don't need Harold Fannin. Like if we have Bowers, I would go ahead and I would drop Harold Fannin, pick up Godwin. The wide receiver depth isn't going to be super important considering the fact that this is a league in which you can only start 2 wide receivers in a flex, and it's a 10-team format. But Chris Godwin does give you the upside that he's not just a depth piece. When he does come back in, he could actually be a top 24 wide receiver at points per game. Then going over and looking at what we have with a potential trade, say you drop Fannin, you pick up Godwin, you drop Love, you pick up Goff, and all of a sudden, like, we're looking at a roster where we have Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne in at running back. We have Lamb Sutton in at wide receiver. We have Kenneth Walker in at the flex. We're probably not making a trade in the short term, but what we would look to do in the long term is once we get Rashee Rice back from the suspension and once we also have, say, Chris Godwin good to go, then at that point you're going to have the flexibility where we would have the wide receiver depth where you could try to send like Courtland Sutton and Travis Etienne for a legit RB1. You could try to send Courtland Sutton and Bo Nix for a legit QB1. So I'm not wanting to do anything right now trade-wise with this team, but I would try to optimize with the waiver wire moves. And in the long term, once you get Rice and Godwin back in, good to go, then at that point, you have the flexibility where you can go through and you can make a trade. But overall, you have the best team in the league. We can see this with the league analyzer. So I don't think that there's too much that you need to be worrying about. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out. Now, looks like we just hit 300 likes in this stream, so let's give away some more free questions. All you got to do again for a free question is drop a like on this live stream, subscribe to the channel so you can message in the chat, and then send in the chat your username for flockfantasy.com. You can see the majority of the questions that we answer in all these live streams are those free questions. We're live streaming every single day for hours and hours and hours, answering as many of your free fantasy football questions as I possibly can. So definitely subscribe if you have not done so already. Now let's move this over to our next question. It's going to be from Lidos. It's currently 0-1 in a league that's tough to trade in. One IR spot with Worthy, Coker, Spears. We got to be saved. Okay, so we are only Fannons. Let me see what the squad is right now. So we were 0-1. See, and yeah, after the Derrick Henry week 2 performance, I would imagine that we are probably 0-2. I don't want to say for sure, but there's a good shot that we are 0-2. Now, right before we get into this, let me see if I can send some free questions out to people in the chat. Let's send this one out to Chubbs. Hopefully I can find you, my friend. Okay, Chubbs, there are 3 different accounts with the username Chubbs. I'm going to send it to the account that was created on September 1st. Hopefully that one's yours, my friend. Now, let's go X-Man 3636. X-Man 3636. Just found you and just sent you over that free start set. Really appreciate you hanging out with us in this live stream. And please let me know in the chat when we hit 400 likes in the stream, and we'll go ahead and we'll send out some more free questions. Now, anyway, looking at this, this is a league in which you can start 4 wide receivers weekly. So the wide receiver depth does matter. Looking at the quarterbacks on the on the waiver wire, we have Drake May, we have Caleb Williams. So realistically, like Drake May, you can make a strong argument that he's going to be worth a roster spot. And you're telling me that we only have 1 IR slot, and we currently had, at the time of submission, you had Worthy, Coker, and Spears all on the same team. So for me, I think that I would go through and I would drop Tajay Spears. And I would be fine going a couple different ways about this. I think you could drop Tajay Spears, and if you wanted to replace him with a running back, you could go ahead and you could pick up a Tyler Algier. Obviously, we would need that injury to Bijan Robinson for Algier to be viable. But if that were to occur, I think you could see, especially with what we had after the game last night, that Tyler Algier would have running back 1 upside. Then looking at what we have with other potential drops, like based off how bad the quarterback play has been with with Bryce Young, once Coker comes in, obviously he's going to be better than Xavier Legette with how bad Xavier Legette's been through the first few weeks. But I don't necessarily know if we can say that Jalen Coker has the upside to be viable in fantasy at this point. So I would probably plan on also dropping Jalen Coker, and I would opt to instead go and get like Drake May off of waivers, because I think you could see a world in which you're going back and forth with the matchups between Kyler Murray and Drake May. Then going over and looking at tight ends, the best option on waivers is Dallas Goedert. Now I'd rather have both Cleveland tight ends over them. So yeah, for the short-term moves, drop Coker, drop Spears, pick up Drake May, pick up Tyler Algier. Then looking at what we have at running back, we are currently rolling with CMC, Derrick Henry. So we have 2 anchor RB1s. Trey Benson expanding his role, ultimately a premium handcuff back. Well, Tyler Algier is a premium handcuff back as well. But overall, obviously great running back room. We're ranked 3rd in the league analyzer. Once we get Algier, you could possibly jump up to 2nd, to be honest. Now, looking at what we have at wide receiver, we have Mike Evans, and then the T. Higgins fall with no Joe Burrow is obviously disappointing. T. Higgins was actually my wide receiver 1 in the Flock League, as embarrassing as that is. We have Devonta Smith, wide receiver 3. We have Worthy. We have Keenan. So the wide receiver depth matters here because it's a full PPR format where you can start up to 4 wide receivers weekly. And so with the Worthy injury, we need to be holding on to all the depth that we can outside of, like I said, dropping Jalen Coker. So while I would like to possibly upgrade quarterback, while I'd like to possibly upgrade tight ends, in reality, I think you're just kind of going to be stuck with what you got on this team. Harold Fannin, not bad at all, given the fact that 1, you can have your team name only Fannins. And 2, with Harold Fannin, he is getting utilized a little bit more as a slot wide receiver in comparison to a traditional tight end. So the offense is clearly bad. David Njoku still clearly has a pretty big role here, which is going to be frustrating. If you have Fannin and Njoku, you would kind of rather, I don't want to say you're hoping for an injury, but you would hope that they just take David Njoku out and you're willing to sacrifice him if it expands the role of Harold Fannin, because obviously you're not starting both of these guys and you really just need one of them to get value inside your starting lineup here. So I would make the small waiver wire pivots. And then honestly, I'm not going to make anything trade wise just because I think the depth here matters in your league. And you're not in a position where we could go through and like sell somebody like Teague and sell somebody like Mike Evans. We for sure need them, but I really appreciate you. I wish I was able to help you out a little bit more than what we just did. But again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock, my guy. Now let's move this over to our next question. This one is going to be from Jax14, says, not sure who to start at wide receiver 2 in flex. And should I stick with Tet and Etienne or add Ricky Pearsall or Hollywood? I really hope we stuck with Tet and Etienne. My friend, sorry that we're just now getting to this today, but let me send you over some free questions. We'll be excited to check this out. We are the #1 team in the league analyzer by a decent little margin here. Now, I will say roster construction wise, I actually just did this myself. I just cut Dallas Goedert. And I think if you have Kittle and Harold Fannin, I understand that Kittle's most likely on your IR, but I think we really don't want to be rostering 3 tight ends regardless. So I would cut Dallas Goedert. And then scrolling through and looking at the skill positional names, that would be interesting to me. Based off the utilization that we had from Troy Franklin, back-to-back weeks now in weeks 1 and 2. Like, we can actually pull this up. Week 1, he came through with 6 targets. Week 2, he had 9 targets. And he scores the touchdown. He was the wide receiver 7 in week 2, at least so far before tonight's games. I would drop Dallas Goedert for Harold Fannin at wide receiver. While I know this is a league in which you can only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, Hollywood Brown just simply does not look usable, considering that we just had the game with no Rice and no Worthy, and Hollywood did legitimately nothing. Going over and looking at quarterback, we have Bo Nix and Herbert to play the matchups between. We have a great running back core with Bijan, Bucky, Etienne, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Wide receiver, we have JSN, Tet, Rashee Rice, Ricky Pearsall, Hollywood Brown. I absolutely love your team here. I think the main thing that I would focus in on is if you could drop Dallas Goedert, pick up Troy Franklin, and then I would also see if we could trade Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt in a 2-for-1 deal to go get an upgrade elsewhere. Like, if you could send Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and Tet McMillan, T-Mac, Tetaroa, whatever you want to call them, if you could send JCM and Tet and go get a significant upgrade at wide receiver where you can go ahead and get somebody that was going in round 2 of fantasy football drafts, I think that would be very interesting as well if we can find a team that really needs some help at running back, which let's go ahead and let's see if we can find a team that's desperate for RB production. This team has Dylan Sampson as their RB2, so obviously they have no running back 2 to start right now. They don't have a wide receiver of significance. They honestly kind of have a garbage roster. They have Josh Allen, though, so maybe we could go through and maybe we can make a play for Allen. Like, if you wanted to try to send like Travis Etienne and Bo Nix or Travis Etienne and Justin Herbert, I would offer that for Josh Allen and see if they were desperate enough now that they realize, hey, I can't really start Najee Harris. I can't really start Dylan Sampson. And I see that we hit 400 likes on the stream, so we'll send out some more free questions in the chat in just 1 second. Again, for y'all to get those free questions, all you got to do is drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel, and drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. I mean, we are sending out a ton of free questions, answering free questions every single day on this live stream. But let's see if we can find any other teams here that are desperate for a running back production. This team has like Ramondre Aaron Jones, so they had the Aaron Jones injury. Here, obviously, Justin Jefferson not nearly as compelling as he was. But if you could go like the combo of Travis Etienne and Tet somehow to get Jefferson, or even maybe like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and Ricky Pearsall for Tyreek Hill, I would look to make one of those moves. This team has Bowers. You could possibly try to send like Travis Etienne and George Kittle for Bowers. This team has Dobbins and Pacheco as their RB2s and RB3s. They have Nico Collins at wide receiver. I would send them an offer of Travis Etienne and Tet for Nico Collins. I would send them an offer of Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, George Kittle for Trey McBride. And then obviously throw in Harold Fannin. Who cares? You're going to get McBride. This team has Byshell Tootin as their second running back. They just completely whiffed on Caleb Johnson. I would go ahead and I would offer them the combo of like, honestly, Bucky Irving and The Ricky Pearsall, Bucky Irving, and Rashee Rice, and I'd offer that for Puka Nacua and see what they would say. But in general, I think you want to be attacking these 4 teams that are desperate for running back production and seeing if we can squeeze them for something here. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. Let me just triple check, make sure. Yeah, I sent you over those free questions. So if you have anything that you want to follow up with us on this stream with, I'd be super happy to take a look at it for you. But let's go ahead and let's send out some of these free questions to people in the chat. We got Massive Underdog. Let me see if I can find you on the site, my guy. I cannot. I can only find you on the site if you have code FLOCK attached to your account. If you have not put a code to your flockfantasy.com account before, you can add that on your account page. Sniper Shells just found you and just sent you over a free start sit. There were 2 accounts that came up with this. I sent it over to the one that was created in 2024. And let's send this over to Intel Outside as the other winner. Intel Outside just found you and just sent you over that free start sit too. Thank you so much for hanging out with us in this live stream. All right, so let's look at what we have from Brady Nelson here. It says, really hate my wide receiver situation. Who do we start this week? So let's go ahead. Let's pull this up. Let me send you over some free questions. I'll say in general, you're in a really good spot, right? Number 1 team in the league analyzer. It's a league in which you can start 4 wide receivers weekly. So the depth matters a bit typically, but we have so many viable running backs that honestly, we can be a little bit weaker at wide receiver and it's no harm, no foul. Like looking at what we have at running back, we have Bijan, we have Hampton, we have Trevion, we have James Conner, we have Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt. Cam Scatterbo looks like he's taking over as the starting running back as well. Looking at receiver, we have Lamb, DJ Moore, Jacoby Myers, Jalen Waddle. Tight end, we have, this is a great team. Starting off with quarterback, we have Dak Prescott. Dak is in the tier of quarterbacks that I wouldn't fault you at all if you wanted to roster 2 of them. Now, looking at the players that are in the bottom end of your team, you have Tajay Spears here at the bottom end. I would say that if you are rostering Spears on your IR where he's not actually taking up a spot, completely fine to leave him here. But if he's on your bench, I would drop Spears and I would go out there and I'd pick up Drake May and play the matchups between May and Dak Prescott going into the future. The issue is if Spears isn't on your IR, I don't necessarily know if we have any other easy cuts. I think maybe the other player that you would consider moving on from would be Pitts. If you're a big believer in Tucker Kraft, but I mean, it's not like Kyle Pitts has been bad through the first 2 weeks where I don't want to be telling you to cut Pitts. So realistically, maybe the play here is trying to find a way that we can upgrade to an elite quarterback. Because you have so many startable running backs. I understand that Trevion's not startable in the short term, but in the long term, he should be. James Conner startable in the short term. Cam Scatterbo is already taking over here. We have, in my opinion, the number 1 and number 2 ranked players in fantasy football. For me, my number 1 player in fantasy football at the moment is going to be Bijan Robinson. And my number 2 player in fantasy football is going to be CeeDee Lamb. So you are in a very comfortable spot where, like, for us to also get James Conner as our running back 4, Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt as our RB5, it does make somebody like Amari and Hampton effectively expendable. Where if you could go through and send Hampton and Dak and get to one of the top 2 quarterbacks, get to Lamar, get to Josh Allen, it'd be an absolute no-brainer. Obviously, it's going to be much easier said than done. Going over and looking at other trades that you can make, you also have the expendable depth at running back to the point where if you wanted to send like James Conner and DJ Moore to go get an upgrade at wide receiver, we could look to do that as well. So the main thing that we're going to have to see is what teams need a running back. This team here at the bottom of the league analyzer, they have ETN as their RB1. They have Zach Charbonnet as their running back 2. So realistically, they really need some help at RB. They have Lamar Jackson, so I'm going to offer them that deal that we discussed. Amari and Hampton, Dak Prescott for Lamar, see what they say. They also have Brian Thomas. Obviously, Brian Thomas has been super disappointing, especially with the drops. But I mean, I wouldn't mind at all you going through and looking to actually try to pick up Brian Thomas on the cheap, where if you wanted to send the combo of like, say, James Conner and DJ Moore, Ja'Cory Cross-Garrett and DJ Moore for Brian Thomas. I mean, the man, while he's looked horrendous from a real life perspective, he still did have 12 targets this past week, which obviously is compelling in its own right. Now, looking at what we have with the next team that needs running backs, they have Chase Brown, Kyron, Kenneth Walker, so they're probably fine. The issue is most teams in like a 10-team league aren't really going to need any specific position. This team gets the Judkins breakout, and Jordan Mason looks to be startable now that you have the Aaron Jones injury, so they're probably fine. This team loses Aaron Jones, so maybe they feel like they want a little more running back depth. They just lost Joe Burrow as well. What's actually funny is when Drake May is sitting out here for free on the waiver wire, like, I would effectively value Dak Prescott as nothing, because if you can pick up May, I think that they're about the same. So for me, I would go through and I would offer them Dak Prescott to fill their Joe Burrow hole. I would offer them a running back to fill that Aaron Jones hole, maybe like James Conner. And then a depth receiver like Jalen Waddle to see if we can get to Marvin Harrison. And you feel a little bit more comfortable about your wide receivers at the top end. But the issue with making too many trades with this team is, again, like we're clearly trying to sell running back depth pieces to people that need them. And there simply aren't many teams in your league that need help at RB. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way. Let me confirm. Yeah, we sent you over those free questions. So if there's anything else that you want me to take a look at, I'd be super happy to check it out for you, my friend. Okay. Phil, I'm going to be opening up questions, yes, on the site in just a second. I want to go through and I want to catch up on all these team reviews, though. We had team reviews get sent in before the games kicked off yesterday, and we focused in on answering the start-sit questions before kickoff. And now we got to circle back and we need to get the team reviews again. I just can't afford to fall behind. I want to make sure that any like trade questions, any start-sit questions that are submitted, I am able to get to before the games today. So let's move this back. Chubby for Judy says, hey Mason, the squad took a big hit with Worthy going down. We fell from 3rd to 9th in the team rankings. League mates expressed he wants to trade Jayden Daniels. However, I feel like we need a true RB1. Team dropped to historic low on points week 1, so nothing's on the table trade-wise. Thanks, Mason. Appreciate you, my friend. Let me see where we're at after week 2 that I've updated my rankings. We have moved up to the 5th team in the League Analyzer, and honestly, pulling this up, there's some pretty simple things that we could do just off the waiver wire to even go higher than this. You're in a very similar spot that I am, where I also have TJ Hawkinson looking horrendous to the point where I think Hawkinson probably is just going to be droppable for both you and me. I'm looking at what we have with tight ends on the waiver wire. I would drop TJ Hawkinson for Zach Ertz. Like, we can go through and look at what Zach Ertz has done through the first 2 weeks this season. Zach Ertz drops 18 points in week 2 and 11.5 points in week 1. I would drop him for Kyle Pitts as well. I would drop TJ Hawkinson for Harold Fannin. I would drop Hawk for Jawan. Yeah, you're dropping TJ Hawkinson for one of these tight ends. I would go over and look at quarterback as well, dropping McCarthy for either Jared Goff or Caleb Williams, preferably Goff. I would also drop McCarthy for Daniel Jones. I think that's another simple waiver wire pivot that you can make. This is a league in which you can start up to 4 wide receivers weekly, so the depth of wide receiver matters a little bit more. But Kayshon Boutte only had 1 target this past week. I understand it was a highlight grab for a touchdown, right? So I don't want to talk down on him, but if you're going to be able to pick up Trey Benson, where Benson actually increases his role as a receiver quite dramatically, and he plays a career high with snaps, I would drop Kayshon Boutte for Trey Benson at running back. And then outside of that, I think you're honestly naturally probably going to slide up 2 or 3 spots in the league analyzer after you make those moves. And it looks like we just hit 500 likes in the stream. So we'll send out some more free questions in the chat in just 1 second. Again, to qualify for those free questions, all you got to do is make sure you've hit the like button, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. But so those simple waiver wire moves are going to put you in a much better spot. Like playing the matchups between Goff and Bo Nix obviously will make our quarterback room just better in general. Then going through and looking at what we have with the running backs, we have James Cook, we have Amari and Hampton. So we have 2 startable running backs every single week. We have Kenneth Walker and Quinshon Judkins as quality depth pieces as well. I mean, hell, David Montgomery's our RB5. Then going through and looking at what we have at wide receiver, we have Neighbors and Nico as the 2 alpha wide receiver 1s. The Worthy injury hurts, but it looks like Jennings may be startable. And at the same time, you're looking at a couple of running backs that we can put into our flex spots regardless. So this is a great team. I'm not wanting to do anything. I mean, maybe once we end up getting back like Xavier Worthy, then at that point you could find yourself in a position in which like we can afford to go out there and try to sell like Kenneth Walker for an upgrade at tight end or Kenneth Walker for an upgrade at quarterback. But because it's going to be a start 8 formats, I think you're in a position in which you actually kind of have to hold on to the skill positional depth for the time being and just work the waiver wire mainly. But I really appreciate you and really hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this. And let me confirm that I sent you over those free questions as well, just to make sure that if there's anything that you want to follow up with, okay, yeah, let's send over those free questions if there's anything that you want to follow up with this team. But I think your team's actually in a much better spot, and they're acting like Xavier Worthy may end up playing, actually. Okay. Now let's go through and let's send over some free questions. Liam, this is the truth. Okay, let me send this over to you. Appreciate you, my guy. The truth. See if I can find you on the site. Just found you on the site and just sent you over that free question. And again, drop your username in the chat if you want those free questions sent to you. Just sent that over to you, my friend. And let's send the next one over to Hertz Glazer. Hertz Glazer. Just found you and just sent you over that free start sit as well. Appreciate you hanging out with us in this stream. Okay, somebody please remind me when we hit 600 likes in the stream. We'll go ahead and send out some more free questions. Now, let's move this over to our next one. It's going to be a team from Brett Adrian. Says, let me know what you think of the team and any advice. So we are the number 1 team in the league analyzer here. This is a league in which you can only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. So in general, the wide receiver depth is not going to be mattering much. Looking at what we have when it comes to quarterback, we have Josh Allen. So with Allen, we're starting him every single week, regardless of matchup. Obviously disappointing what we had this past week, but you're just going to have to roll with the punches with some of the ups and downs, of course. I have Allen on my own team. There's no way I'm rostering another QB. Going over and looking at what we have with the running back room, we have Amari and Hampton, RB1. I mean, an RB that I think is going to continue to get better as time goes on. Really excited about starting him. Now, for me personally, I would really hope that Amari and Hampton does nothing this week, just because I am in a position in which I can only win if Amari and Hampton does nothing. Travis Etienne, RB2. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, RB3. RJ Harvey, RB4. So somebody that we don't have to rely on right now, but gives us that long-term upside. Going over to wide receiver, we have Neighbors and Monroe St. Brown as 2 alphas we're starting every single week. Rome Odunze is a clear flex option every week. Then we have Travis Hunter, Jalen Waddle, Kayshon Boutte, and Jalen Coker. I would say Kayshon Boutte, like with a team like this, probably doesn't have a path to hitting your starting lineup, even if I have him ranked over DJ Giddens rest of season. Like, I'd almost rather have DJ Giddens just in the instance in which, like you were to get an injury to Jonathan Taylor, I actually think that you could see DJ Giddens start for you. And then in terms of making a trade, it would really just hinge on if we were able to sell Waddle, if we were able to sell Travis Hunter. So, I mean, clearly we had like Jalen Waddle with a good week this past week, but I don't necessarily think that we're all of a sudden going to be able to get a great price tag for Waddle. I don't think people are willing to overlook how bad Tua's been. And then with Travis Hunter, there's just no world in which we're going to be able to sell him after what the Jags have done for the first 2 weeks. So I think what you're probably going to have to do is, I think you're just going to wait a little bit of time. And if we end up getting that Travis Hunter breakout, if you feel like Jalen Waddle all of a sudden turns into somebody that we can trust every single week, then maybe at that point we'll have the expendable depth where you could go through and you could look to send like Rome Odunze and Zach Ertz for a true top 3 tight ends. But I think your team, the way that it's situated right now in a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, is honestly in a really, really good spot where it's not like we are overloaded with so many wide receivers that have a ton of value down there on our bench. And more so instead, it's like we have the elite quarterback, we have running back production that we like. So I think you're in a really good spot as is. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my friend. I wish I had more to say for you. But again, you're the number 1 team in the league analyzer. I think you have a great team. Let me send you over some of those free questions just in case there's anything else that you wanted to follow up with. Now let's move over to our next team. This is Josh Allen's anal penetration. It says, what are your thoughts on the team? I used your draft guides at my draft. What are your thoughts on what Braylon Allen will do? Braylon Allen at this point looks like he is going to be nothing more than a premium handcuff RB. What Trey Benson will do it looks like these 3 running backs are guys that you cannot rely on. You cannot plan on getting them in your starting lineup anytime soon. Outside of if the starting running back were to go down in front of them, then at that point they turn into automatic locks. Tuden is on the bench right now, but do you really think I should drop Braylon and pick up Tuden? Okay, so let's check this out. We are at the 3rd team in the league analyzer. Yeah, Tuden is currently out there on waivers, but it looks like we already dropped Braylon Allen, which I would agree with. Now, this is a league in which you can start 4 wide receivers weekly, so the wide receiver depth is going to matter. And in general, just the skill positional depth is going to matter. But we have the elite quarterback with Josh Allen. And honestly, at this point, I think we can say that we also have the elite tight end with Tyler Warren. Going over and looking at what we have at running back, we are currently sitting with Achane. Not only do we have Achane, but at the same time, we have a quality RB2 with DeAndre Swift, somebody that we can trust every week. We have Tony Pollard as somebody that we can trust every week until we get Tajay Spears back in. Now, once Spears comes back in, and I'm saying this as somebody who has Tony Pollard in their own team, I don't necessarily know if we would be excited to just go through and jam in Pollard, because really the only reason I'm excited to play Pollard for the time being is you do just have the true 3-down workhorse role. Quinshon Judkins looks like he is breaking out to an extent where we can be excited about Judkins. And then Trey Benson is just the premium handcuff, right? Where we're never going to be starting Trey Benson outside of the instance where we do get the injury to James Conner. Looking over at wide receiver, Jefferson, we got to lower our expectations, but he's still a wide receiver 1. Ladd McConkey is still a great wide receiver 2, even at 10-team format. Devonta Smith, still a pretty solid wide receiver 3. Chris Godwin, Addison, we're just waiting on. And then Matthew Golden, we're just kind of waiting on as well. And then we have Tyler Warren at tight. I love your team. For me, between like Trey Benson and Byshell Tuten, they're close. I have Benson ranked over Tuten. Again, we've actually seen James Conner be pretty inefficient so far this season. And Trey Benson did just play a career-high snap rate. And Benson at the same time looks like he is a player that's going to be able to actually increase his role to the point where even without a James Conner injury, you could start him if you were desperate. I don't want to be telling you to sell any depth just because, again, if we're going to go through and if we're going to look at this, you're in a spot in which you have to start 8 players weekly. You have 6 skill positional guys. We have no Godwin right now. We have no Jordan Addison right now. Now, once Godwin and Addison come back in, at that point, I would love to try to send like 2 players in a 2-for-1 deal to go get an upgrade elsewhere. Like if you could try to go through it, if you could try to send like the combo of Devonta Smith and Jefferson to get to a tier 1 wide receiver still, like Devonta Smith and Jefferson to get to CeeDee Lamb, I would absolutely love to do that, but you're just simply going to have to wait until we get Chris Godwin. You're going to have to wait until we get Jordan Addison back with this team. And then overall, I mean, you're in a great situation. I think that Pollard has like an expiration date kind of, but the issue that you're going to find is if you were to try to sell Pollard, like we don't know if Judkins is ready yet. So I definitely want Pollard over Judkins in the short term. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my guy. And yeah, again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock. But it looks like we just hit 600 likes on the stream. So again, we'll send out some more free questions. If you want free questions, it's pretty damn simple. All you got to do is make sure that you've hit the like button, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and then also drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat so I know who to send those free questions to. But we are live streaming every single day answering fantasy football questions, and the majority of the ones that we are answering are free. But we're going to get our next one going for Victor. But first, let me pick a couple free people to give these to. We got Not Oliver. Appreciate you sticking with me for so long, my friend. Let me send you over this free start set. Just sent that over to your account. You know I appreciate you, my guy. Okay. And let's send one out for MacB0211. Hopefully this is your site username and not just your YouTube username. MacB. Yep, just found you on the site and just sent you over that free start set question as well. Appreciate you hanging out with us in the stream. And please let me know when when we get 700 likes in the stream. That way I know when to pull up some more. But this one's coming from Victor. And I know we have other team reviews we got to get through. I keep saying that we are going to, but probably during the games today when I'm watching the games on one monitor, we'll be streaming on the Dynasty channel and on another one. But it says, just traded Igbuka and Sampson for Nico. Hell yes. I mean, obviously we had Igbuka and Dylan Sampson on the Sell High video last week. But that is beautiful. And you're saying I can't seem to link my ESPN account to the site. You should be able to, but I'll be happy to check out the team with screenshots anyway. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's dive into this. So this is the bench. This is the starting lineup. So starting lineup requirements are going to be 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and 1 flex. So for me, this means that the depth isn't really going to matter much whatsoever. If you're looking at what we have with the 2 wide receiver, 1 flex formats, I generally want to be making 2-for-1 deals to improve inside the starting lineup. And on top of that, generally, I want to go out there and build around an elite quarterback and an elite tight end. So we currently have Josh Allen at QB. So obviously feel super comfortable here. Love to see it. Going over and looking at what we have on the bench, we are not rostering another quarterback, which is perfect. Looking at what we have at running back, we currently are sitting with Chase Brown, Travis Etienne. With Chase Brown and Travis Etienne, like solid RB1, solid RB2 combo. Is this like the best group of running backs I've ever seen? Probably not, but it's still great. Then going down and looking at the bench, we have Nick Chubb as a desperation play if we ever needed him. And then we have Jordan Mason, who actually looks like he can be a great flex play for now. I actually really am excited about playing Jordan Mason with no Aaron Jones. Like you can go through and realistically, you're probably actually going ahead and putting Jordan Mason into your starting lineup over Jacoby Myers. Then going over, looking at what we have at receiver, we have Nico Puganakua, so 2 legit wide receiver ones. Then looking at tight ends, we have Harold Fannin. Like, I think that realistically, I'm going to try to go through it. I'm going to try to trade for an elite tight end if I were you. I mean, I think your team's strong enough to do it, to be honest. Like, what would be the hesitation on this? If you could go through and if you could send like Sutton and Harold Fannin and try to go get to Tyler Warren, maybe it's much easier said than done, but it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. You have Cortland Sutton on your bench as is. We have Rashee Rice on our bench. We have Jordan Mason, who's going to look like a must-start name at this point, on your bench too. If I could go through and if I could trade for the combo of, like, if I could get to McBride, if we could get to Bowers, if we could get to Tyler Warren, obviously that'd be a no-brainer. I think Bowers, McBride going to be a little more expensive there. Depending on the Aaron Jones hamstring, you could possibly actually look at Chase Brown as a viable trade piece. Or depending on what happens in the game tonight, if you wanted to try to send like Chase Brown, Harold Fannin, and go get the elite level tight end like Bowers, and then be left over with like Jordan Mason as your RB2, and then eventually, if Aaron Jones does come back in, just kind of flip a depth wide receiver for a depth running back. I think that's going to be the play that we are trying to make with this team. And no, this is brutal. We had the Giants DST this week with Russ dropping 450. And then once we get Rashee Rice back in, then we can be more aggressive as well to try to go out there and trade for the elite level tight end, just because, especially by that point, we'd have so much wide receiver depth that it'd be kind of a no-brainer. But I really appreciate you. And yeah, obviously have a phenomenal team. And like, whenever we had Igbuka and Dylan Sampson as those sell high candidates, getting like Nico Collins for him is kind of exactly what we were talking about. But really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with that. But is this the same team that we just looked at with the Josh Allens? Yes, Josh Allen's butt penetration. I actually just reviewed this team previously, so let me make sure that everybody knows. I will never miss a team review. I'll never miss a start set question. We go in order that we receive them. So never send one in and go like, oh crap, maybe Mason forgot to look at this for me. Maybe Mason accidentally skipped mine. We just go in order of the way that we get them. So never just feel the need to send in multiple questions of the same thing thinking I missed it. I'm really sorry that you sent this in twice though. Let me hook you up with a bunch of free questions just in case there's anything else that you want me to take a look at here for you, my friend. And then, or I don't know, maybe he made a waiver wire move and then thought that, yes, his first question wasn't answered, so I used the free one. Yeah, I promise you I'm always going to answer. Never think that you need to send something in twice, my guy. But we just sent you over a bunch of free questions. So if there's anything else that you want to follow up with, I'd be happy to look at it. And I'm going to turn questions on the site for the next 10 to 15 minutes. If you wanted to get a question in, you can do so now. I'm probably going to turn them off after about 10 minutes because I want to make sure that anything that's submitted, start, sit, trade, or super message wise, I will answer before the kickoff in 2 hours. If it's a team review, I cannot guarantee that though. And if it's a team review at the latest, it will get answered tomorrow. But MX7015 says Keeper League was able to keep Bijan at the 111. And it was the second highest score in week 1. Not looking to change anything unless you see something we could do. So yeah, we are in a really good spot. We are 2-0 at this point. So I'm assuming we're going against the league median. We are the number one team in the league analyzer. It's a league in which depth matters. You start a total of up to like 4 wide receivers here weekly. Looking at what we have with Kyler Murray and Brock Purdy at quarterback, in general here, I would say that like Brock Purdy is somebody that you don't necessarily need to have rostered. Like, I'm not going to fault you whatsoever for rostering Brock Purdy, right? But if he's on your IR, we're completely fine with it. But if he's taking up an actual spot, I think I'd probably look to go ahead and cut Purdy, roll with Kyler, because you just have great players available to you on the waiver wire. Like Cam Scatterbo is somebody that we just absolutely have to pick up. Looking at this, Cam Scatterbo versus like Byshell Tootin, which is the last running back on our bench. That's relatively close. I don't want to have to tell you that, oh man, you got to drop Byshell Tootin, because obviously Tootin looks very exciting and you wouldn't be that surprised if he eventually takes over as the starting running back in Jacksonville. However, I will say the reason I have Cam Scatterbo ranked over Byshell Tootin as of now is Cam Scatterbo is already taking over as the starting running back here in New York. Going over and looking at what we have with the waiver wire options at wide receiver, nothing stands out too much. But here's my thing overall. Like, we have Brandon Ayuk injured. We have Jayden Reed injured. We have Brock Purdy injured. We have Joe Mixon injured. Like, do we have unlimited IR slots, or do we have some of these guys sitting on our bench? I'm assuming we have some of these guys sitting on our bench. No? So, like, if we could go through and if we could reasonably, like, just move on from some of these injured players and pick up Cam Scatterbo, I think that'd be very interesting. Hell, Zach Ertz, I think somebody that's worth a roster spot here as well. Maybe we need to lower expectations with Zach Ertz just a bit, considering the fact that the Jayden Daniels injury is going to lower the overall outlook for the total points scored and the total trips to the red zone in Washington. What else do we have that we can say here? It's a league in which you can start 4 wide receivers weekly. But like trade-wise, it's just going to be difficult to make many moves because as of right now, we don't have Joe Mixon. As of right now, we don't have Rashee Rice. We don't have Brandon Ayuk. We don't have Jayden Reed. We don't have Brock Purdy. So the depth is very questionable for this roster. I don't necessarily think that we can afford to make like too many 2-for-1 deals. But what we could possibly try to do again is I want to pick up Cam Scatterbo. I don't think we need to be rostering this many injured players down on our bench, assuming that we don't have like 5 IR slots, which I'd be surprised if we did. So I would probably drop Purdy. I'd pick up Scatterbo. And then once we start getting some of these injured / suspended players back in, then at that point, obviously, I mean, a lot of these assets would become expendable. Like, we could try to send Devontae Adams and Kyler Murray to go get to an elite level quarterback. We could try to send Mike Evans and Kyler to get to an elite quarterback, or Devontae Adams and Jake Ferguson to get to an elite tight end. But for the time being, we just can't make a move like that because, again, we have so many injured players / suspended players on our roster that I think really the only thing that we could be doing is giving this team a little bit of time to get everybody nice and healthy and making like the small waiver wire pivot where we go through and we pick up Cam Scatterbo. But I really appreciate you. Let me send you over some free questions. And yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with us in the live stream, my guy. But Scatterbo just is going to be somebody that you absolutely have to pick up here. Now, let's move this over to our next question. This is Al Fitty. Says, looking to upgrade at running back 2, league is keeper and pick trade. So draft wasn't ideal, but found good value. I'm going to have to figure out what your team is on another page here. Okay. Hoping to flip Pittman and Sampson for that RB2. Yeah, after this week, I know we had Sampson on the sell high video last week, but after what just happened in Baltimore, there's no way we can sell Dylan Sampson. Nobody's going to buy him. We saw somebody earlier in this stream that was actually able to get a really good price for selling Dylan Sampson and Igbuka in a package. But I think that ship has sailed if you didn't make something already, which I am sorry to admit, but it's just probably the fact of the matter. I think we're probably the number one team in the league analyzer here. I just want to triple check to make sure. Yeah, we are the number one team in the league analyzer. So I like how we're saying that the draft wasn't ideal, but we're in a good spot. This says start 9 format. So we can just start a tremendous amount of skill positional options here weekly. So actually the depth at running back, the depth at wide receiver it's really important. But I guess we just hit on Jonathan Taylor in a big time way. And we hit on CeeDee Lamb in a big time way as well. On quarterback, we have Dak and McCarthy. At this point, I would go through and I would drop J.J. McCarthy for Daniel Jones. Not only, obviously, has Daniel Jones been much better than McCarthy, but also McCarthy being out 2 to 4 weeks, we can't waste the roster spot on him. So I would go ahead, drop McCarthy, pick up DJ. Going over to running back, we have JT smashing in a big time way. We also have Kenneth Walker looking like he is somebody that we can trust now. I understand that Zach Charbonnet played more than him this past week, but still at the end of the day, Kenneth Walker played so well that there's no way to go right back to Charbonnet. We have Trey Benson expanding his role. I think that looking at the options on waivers, for me, I would drop Dylan Sampson and I would drop Tank Bigsby at this point. Because the thing with Dylan Sampson is, even if you were to get a Judkins injury, Dylan Sampson goes to being a running back that's in a committee with Jerome Ford. So I don't necessarily know what the true ceiling is there. I would drop Tank Bigsby for Tyler Algier. I would drop Dylan Sampson for Rashad White. With Tyler Algier, if you were to get an injury to Bijan, he's an automatic starter. With Rashad White, I almost want to say the same thing when it comes to an injury to Bucky Irving. And I would do that before the game tonight, just in case something does happen with Bucky. Going over to wide receiver, Trey Harris is going to be cuttable even in a keeper league here. I would cut Trey Harris for Troy Franklin. If you're looking more long-term, I think Troy Franklin has a lot of long-term value as well. He's the only young wide receiver that's shown any hope there in Denver. And then we have Lamb, Tet, Tyreek, wide receiver 3, Rome, wide receiver 4. There are a lot of formats that it feels like a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. I'd go, hey man, we got to sell a wide receiver. Let's see if we can sell Rome and Dak and go get a quarterback upgrade. Let's see if we can sell Rome and Walker. Let's see if we can sell Tyreek and Walker and go get an RB upgrade. But no, here it's a start 9. So realistically, we're starting like Dak, Bowers, quarterback, and tight end. Then we need 7 combined players for running back and receiver. We have Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker, Lamb, Tet, Tyreek, Rome, and Pittman. So, you're in a really, really good spot with this team. There's no way we did not win this past week, and you were 1-0 coming into the week. So we're going to be sitting at 2-0 after the blow up that you got from Taylor, Walker, Lamb. Tet played well. Tyreek played well. Rome blew up. Every single player that you had blew up, you're sitting at 2-0. The depth matters a ton. The only thing that I do with your team is you drop McCarthy, you pick up Daniel Jones, you drop Tank Bigsby and Dylan Sampson, and you pick up the combo of Tyler Algier, Rashad White. I would rather drop Spears than them, but the issue is I'm assuming that Spears is currently on the IR, so dropping him is not going to open up a roster spot. And then I would drop Trey Harris for Troy Franklin, but phenomenal team, number 1 team in the league analyzer, probably the number 1 team in the league standings after this week as well. So great team, young for the keepers too. So I think you're just rolling in rest of season here, but really appreciate you. Hope I was able to help you out in some way. But looks like we just hit 700 likes on the stream. So let me go ahead and let's give away some more free questions. All you got to do for these free questions again will be to drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel, and then also drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. But we are giving away a ton of free questions every single day. You're going to be able to see here as we go through and answer a bunch of these. The vast majority of questions that we answer on the site are free just for the people that are hanging out with us in the live stream. So highly recommend setting up an account on the site with code FLOCK, and highly recommend subscribing to the channel as well. But we are going to get a trade question going here for Nick. But before we do that, let me give away these free questions in the chat. Okay. Let's send one over to Quagga. Just found you and just sent you over a free start sit. Thank you for hanging out with us in the stream. And let's send one out to Nick AU595. Just found you and just sent you out a free question in the stream as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, my guy, and really do appreciate you sticking with me for so long. But let's move this over to these questions that we got to get through real quick. This from Nick is Kenneth Walker and Igbuka versus Hampton and Ridley. I'd rather have Hampton over Walker. I'd rather have Igbuka over Ridley. We're probably going to go with the Kenneth Walker side now that we saw Kenneth Walker just straight up outplay Charbonnet this past week. Now, Bear Maulings with our next one. Running back, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take the combo Travis Etienne. And here's the thing. I'm going to turn off the start set questions. I don't know the matchups for week 3 yet. I can guess the start set questions for y'all, but I just know myself. I know our process. And if you ask me a start set question on a Monday versus on a Wednesday, they're going to be different answers. So I'm going to turn off start set questions. I'll answer this for you, my friend, but we're going to go ETN, probably Brees over Walker still. Wide receivers, St. Brown, London, and Debo. Tight end, give me Kincaid over Andrews. Andrews is cuttable. And then there for the flex, we're going to go Kenneth Walker. But again, I can change my mind on that. Now we got a trade from Chazzy, trading Kenneth Walker for Tyler Warren. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Tyler Warren there. You still had Charbonnet playing more snaps this past week. Now, I think Kenneth Walker earned the job for sure. Don't get me wrong. But it's not like Charbonnet just completely disappeared. Phil trading Igbuka for Rome and Drake May. Hell, I think you can make an argument to have Rome straight up over Igbuka at this point. So if you needed a quarterback as well, getting May, completely fine value. You can go with the Rome side. Now, Lysergic Sid, this is Trevion Terry versus Drake London. After the Daniels injury, I've moved Terry McLaurin down my rank. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the Drake London side of this. The Big Q trading Harvey and Harrison for Jordan Mason, who I'd now rather have Jordan Mason over RJ Harvey, given the injury to Aaron Jones, and Tyreek Shakir. So for me, I think I'm actually going to be taking the Jordan Mason, Tyreek Hill side of this. Taco says, need a running back too. Sell low on Worthy with Rice on the bench. Yes, they're telling us that Worthy could be good to go this week, but everything that I've read, it sounds like Worthy's going to be at a super high risk for re-injury. And he may be playing his sling. I don't know exactly how it's going to impact him. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll take Judkins. Now, Jay Colley here with an empty trade for Brian Thomas. If you're asking somebody to trade for Brian Thomas, I'd trade Ted for Brian Thomas still. I'd still rather have Thomas here. But obviously, Thomas is going downhill quickly. Grump, I would way rather have CeeDee Lamb over Justin Jefferson at this point. After week 1, I think we move CeeDee Lamb ahead of Jefferson. For sure going that way after week 2. Future Flock, this is Harvey and St. Brown versus Achan, Pickens, JMO. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. Right now, our starting lineup is St. Brown, Mike Evans at wide receiver, running back, Derek. Yeah, you have no other running back. If Caleb Johnson's your running back too, you kind of have to go through and take the Achan side. Whole Milk is King says, I know it leaves me weak at tight end, but I couldn't believe the other owner sent JSN. Dumb move or no? I mean, This is an incredible move. I don't care if you're streaming tight end after this. You would go ahead and you would take Jackson Smith and Jigba and Kincaid here. Now, BT Kavanaugh trading Kenneth Walker and Jefferson for Lamb. It's an 8-team league. Our running back room is Kyron, Hampton, Kaylee. Yeah, the thing is you can't do this because you have the Aaron Jones injury, and it's a start 9 format. So in like a normal 8-team league where you're just unbelievably loaded at running back, where you're just simply not really going to need Kenneth Walker, I understand the deal. But here, I don't know if you can make it. Here, I think you actually have to go with the Jefferson side and pick up the extra starter. Okay, now Ghostface trading Bo, Chuba, Rome, Kincaid for Marv, Waddle, and McBride. Chuba to Marv. Lateral move up to you. I'd rather have McBride over Rome and Kincaid. I'd rather have Waddle over Bo Nix. I'd probably make the deal. Now, if Rome continues to perform the way that he has been, obviously you're going to end up losing this. Colin says, Mason, my goat, where can I buy a flock hat? So we have a bunch of different designs of these hats. We are not going to be selling them, though. We are just giving them away to the annual members on the site. So if you're an annual member on the site, I will inform you of when the Google form is posted. But we're just going to post a Google form on flockfantasy.com saying like, hey, what are your favorite designs? What hat do you want? What hat do you want the least? Blah, blah, blah. And you'll just fill that out and you'll get a free hat. JP says, am I overthinking trying to get off Chase? Not at all. How should I go someone like Neighbors, Puka, Bijan? Here's my hesitation with this. It's a 14-team format. So you make this deal, then wide receiver 1's Tet, wide receiver 2's Igbuka. Now, obviously, RB1, RB2 looks great. If we are going for this tier of like Bijan Robinson, Malik Neighbors, Puka Nacua, CeeDee Lamb, I think Tony Pollard's a little bit too rich in a 14-team league. 10-team league, go make this deal for sure. But 14-teamer, it's going to be a little bit tougher. If you can trade Scattaboo with him, or hell, we have Bowers and Harold Fannin. The easy trade is if you can somehow convince somebody to trade for Harold Fannin here. Like send Chase and Harold Fannin to a team that needs a tight end for one of those options that still looks like a top 5 player, whether that's Gibbs, Barkley, Bijan, CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua. I would go ahead and I'd try to do that, but it's a little bit of a tough spot in terms of a 14-team league. Christopher says our trade questions locked. Yes, we just locked questions. We had them open for about 10 minutes, but like I said, what we're going to do with questions from now on is they'll be open for 10 minutes. People will send them in. I'm going to answer them all, and then I'll open them again for 10 minutes just to make sure that we don't fall too far behind and just to make sure that we are able to give an answer to every single question before the game starts. But let me send over another free trade voucher to JP, my guy. If you have any counters here, be happy to answer this for you. But Joshua says, your thoughts on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? Peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I think it's safe to say that it's possibly the best invention mankind's ever made. FTW Jose says, both my quarterbacks are hurt, Burrow and Fields. Top 2 waivers are Bo Nix and Dak. Who should I drop or pick up? I cannot see your team here, Jose. Jose, if you're in the live chat right now, would you mind letting me know the lowest players that the league analyzer has in terms of rankings on your bench? And honestly, F it. Like, why am I even saying that? Just drop Burrow and Fields. Like, drop Joe Burrow and drop Justin Fields and pick up Dak Prescott and Bo Nix. Super easy. I would prioritize probably Bo Nix over Dak if it's a 4-point passing touchdown format, though. He's just going to have more upside. Okay. Now, Gnarl's coming through with our next question. This is Kyron versus Pollard and Brian Thomas. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. At least that's what it says here. I don't know if that's true. We're going to go with Brian Thomas and Pollard. Unless, like, this is an 8-team league where the depth doesn't matter whatsoever. Like, I slightly have Kyron Williams ahead of Brian Thomas. But for us to get the usage going in the red zone over to Blake Corum over Kyron Williams, that's concerning, and it's not something that we can just straight up ignore. Oh, let's move this over. And it looks like we are 1 like away from hitting 800 likes in the stream. So if you haven't already, go down there and hit that like button. And once we do, we will send over those free questions in the chat. But Illusion says, start Javonte over Kenneth Walker and DeAndre Swift this next week. I'm going to be honest with you, my friend. I don't know the matchups yet. So I have the start sit questions turned off on the site for a reason, just because it's a little early for me to know this. But see if I can pull up implied team totals for week 3. Okay. I can't pull those up yet. Week 3, who are the Cowboys playing? They're going up against the Bears. Yeah, Seattle has the Saints. Kenneth Walker's in a good spot there. It's too early for me to know. I think I would probably play Javonte over Swift, but we got to see what the projections are with the Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet split. But it looks like we had 800 likes on the stream, so let's go ahead and let's give away some more free questions. To get free questions, all you got to do to qualify, stupid simple, is drop a like on the live stream. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. That way you can send messages in the chat. And then go ahead and send a message in the chat with your flockfantasy.com username so we know who to send those free questions to. Now, JCAD says, lots of good wide receivers, but running back is a struggle. 0 RB strat. I cannot, if you send in a super message, I can't see your team. I'll send you over a couple of free vouchers. I'm sorry, my friend. But again, I can't see teams if you send in a super message. Super messages are just intended for like quick little answers. If you want a team review, I'd be happy to check that out if you get a roster review. Well, let me refresh this, see who we're going to answer this next one for. Okay, so we can actually turn questions back on the site. It looks like we are caught up, which is nice. We need to see if we have any team reviews we got to get to before I turn those on. But we're going to turn back on questions on the site soon. Let's send over a free question to Arrow G, though. And let's find somebody else in the chat to send a free question to as well. Arrow G just sent you over that free start sit. Appreciate you hanging out with us. And let's send one out to Phil. Phil's always out here with us in the streams. You know, I appreciate you, my guy. And just sent that over your direction. Okay. Cruise Fantasy says 0-2 unless Bucky hits 27 points. What should I do? Teams down bad. If we're looking at this next week, you're probably starting Kyler over Bo. Wide receiver, you throw Brian Thomas into the starting lineup, send up a prayer. I think I'm going to go Tet over Higgins. It will be interesting to see what sportsbooks project out for the Cincinnati Bengals implied team total with no Burrow. Ingram versus Brenton Strange, I think you look at the waiver wire. And then here for the flex, I think full PPR format, you're probably going to be going with like Rome. But it is tough to know. Sinful assist. This is Goff and Rome versus Jalen Hurts. Leftover wide receiver, we'd have Neighbors, JSN, Tet, Egbuka, Devonta Smith. So you have 5 startable wide receivers. It's a league in which you can only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. So honestly, it's a pretty high price with how good Rome Odunze looks, but I think you're going to go with him. Slump trading Amari Hampton and Jefferson for James Cook and Malik Neighbors. Jefferson to Neighbors, clearly give me Neighbors. Amari and Hampton to James Cook, clearly give me James Cook. So yeah, we 100% make this deal. Now, Deo says, I need a better wide receiver production, but my running back room's looking like it's taking too much of it. It's a 10-team start 7. So Chase Brown to London. After the Burrow injury, I'd rather have London. Terry to Godwin, I'd still rather have Terry. Leftover at running back, you'd have Bijan, Javonte, Judkins. Wide receiver, we'd have London, Devonta Smith, Pickens. Yeah, this is not a great team in a 10-team league. Where are we in the league analyzer? We're the number one team in the league analyzer? Oh, we have Lamar. Never mind. We have Lamar and Tyler Warren. So actually, this is a great team. I guess just running back and wide receiver is not phenomenal. 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. I'm not going to fault you if you want to make this move. My hesitation is, like, if Javonte collapses, then all of a sudden our running back depth looks very questionable here in a 10-team league. But it's a fair trade, and it's going to be up to you here. But it looks like we are 1 like away from hitting 900 likes in the stream. So go down there and hit that like button. And once we hit 900, we'll give away some more free questions in the chat. Now, Strange Listened says, worried about flex depth if trading Rome. This is a league in which we can start 4 wide receivers weekly. So after this move, we would have Brian Thomas, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Waddle as our only viable receiver. Yeah, you can't make this deal. If this was like a 10-team league in which you only started 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, then sure, I would go ahead and I would overpay for Amon-Ra St. Brown here. But 12-team format where you can get 4 wide receivers into your lineup weekly, I think that this is too high of a price. So no, I'd rather have Roman Ladd. But it looks like we just hit 900 likes on the stream, so we'll go ahead and we'll send out some more free questions. Again, you can see the majority of the questions that we answer in every live stream are the free questions people win in the chat. And all you got to do as well to get those is drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel, and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. We'll pick a couple people right now. But first, as I give you all time to do that, let's enter this from TRX Mitch. Says, offer this, Kenneth Walker, Tyreek, and Tet for Bijan. We're going to take Bijan here if it's a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Actually, no, you can't. Here's the issue with your team. We are waiting on Godwin and we are waiting on Rice. So you make this move. We have Brian Thomas and then a waiver wire wide receiver to put in our lineup. So if instead of trading Tyreek, you could trade Rice, then yeah, sure, let's go ahead and let's make this. But you can't like have Chris Godwin as your wide receiver 2, Rashee Rice is our wide receiver 3. So as the trade stands, even if I like the value in your format, you got to hold on to the package. But let's send over some free questions. We got Slangster. Let me send you over a little something, my friend. Slangster just found you on the users page and just sent you over that free start sit. Appreciate you hanging out with us in this live stream. And we got Div Betic. Let me send you over that free start sit. Appreciate you hanging out with us in this live stream as well. And that should be in your account now. Okay, let's go over and answer this trade question from Not Versi. Trading Jaylen Warren for Travis Hunter. I'd still rather have Travis Hunter. It's a league in which you can start 4 wide receivers weekly. Jaylen Warren still split in the back with the freaking Kenneth Gainwell of all players. So, yeah, give me Hunter. I know it's been disappointing through the first 2 weeks of his NFL career, but it's not the most surprising thing in the world that he's started slow. I mean, last week he had a baby in the NICU, so I think we kind of want to give him the benefit of the doubt here. But, Noah says Pierce inactive tonight. Yeah, that obviously does bode well for what we have with Nick Chubb. And I have Nick Chubb in the Flock League. I'm not starting him. No receiving upside. But I have him in a lot of best ball drafts. So hopefully performs well for underdog teams. Well, let's go ahead and let's check out some of these teams here. We got Infinite here. Says, what do you think I should do, if anything? Well, we are the number 1 team in the league analyzer. This is a league in which we can start 4 wide receivers weekly. So the wide receiver depth matters somewhat more than it otherwise would. Let me send you over some of those free questions, my guy. Appreciate you hanging out with us, of course. Here, quarterback, we have Drake May. So we are effectively in a 10-team league streaming the QB position. Options on waivers are Purdy, Daniel Jones, Michael Penix, Trevor Lawrence. So you're probably starting you're probably starting Drake May over these guys most weeks. But it's not like we can say that you have a Jalen Hurts level player, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, that's locked into our starting lineup every single week, regardless of matchup. Now, looking at running back, we have projectable volume here with Chase Brown, Amari Hampton, Tony Pollard, Quinshawn Judkins, and J.K. Dobbins. So we have 5 starting running backs essentially at the moment. I would love to see if we can extract some value out of somebody like either Tony Pollard or J.K. Dobbins. The reason being is you don't necessarily need them. Not only do you not need them, but at the same time, you're in a situation in which like Tony Pollard's going to get worse as time goes on because Tajay Spears will come in, and J.K. Dobbins is going to get worse as time goes on, considering the fact that RJ Harvey's going to expand as well. So overall, those are the 2 running backs I'd look to sell. Wide receiver, we have Lamb, London, Evans, Igbuka. We have Rome, wide receiver 5. I think you just got to sell some of this depth here for an upgrade at quarterback or tight end. Like, is there a team that we can find that's desperate at either position? Let's look at the teams in the league that are worst at running back here. This team has Trevion as their RB2. They just had the Austin Eckler injury as well. Could we send them Amari Hampton and Jake Ferguson for Trey McBride? I would love to do that. Could we send them Drake London and Drake May for Josh Allen? I would love to do that as well because, I mean, the points per game rest of season between Drake May and Josh Allen, I think that's going to be a larger gap than it would be from like Drake London to Rome Odunze, because Rome would slide into your starting lineup after you make a trade like that. Looking at the other teams that need help at running back, this team is, I guess, Jordan Mason popping off, so they're going to be fine. This team's probably going to be fine as well. Is there a team that could really use some wide receiver help? As we do have the number 1 wide receiver room in the league analyzer, and again, we can afford to upgrade at a onesie here. This team at the bottom is Terry, wide receiver 1, Olave, wide receiver 2, DJ Moore, wide receiver 3. One thing that we could look at is trying to make a 2-for-1 deal to upgrade to Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, if we could send, say, London and Pollard, I would love to get Gibbs for that price tag if we would be able to. London would immediately slide into their wide receiver 1. Pollard would give them quality running back depth, where this team actually kind of needs depth. This team has Barkley. I would offer them the same thing. I would offer them London as well as Pollard to see if we can get to Saquon Barkley. I would offer them London for Brock Bowers as well. You can go London and Ferg for Bowers. And looking at options on the waiver wire, I'd love to make a 2-for-1 deal because you could also go out there and you could pick up Trey Benson for free. You could pick up Loveland for free. So like opening a roster spot would be nice. Probably wouldn't pick up Loveland in your scenario since you already have 2 tight ends. But yeah, I think you have a great team. Again, you're the number 1 team in the league analyzer here. And I think if you have like Rome Odunze, Tony Pollard, both on your bench, you're in a spot in which you could very easily afford to upgrade to an elite quarterback or an elite tight end, or just end up selling one of those wide receivers with a running back like Pollard to try to get to a top end RB1. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way. Let me make sure, yeah, we sent you over those free questions as well, just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with. Now let's move this over to our next team. That's going to be coming out from Hammer Fight. Says, Amon-Ra and Achane carrying me this week. Not seeing too many bright spots. I know I need a running back, but I'm struggling to find trade partners. Well, the main thing we'll focus in on in that case will be, can we make plays with the waiver wire? We are currently 7th in the league analyzer. However, if you look at what we have with the distribution of value, it's like the number 1 team in this league is pretty far ahead of everybody else. Then beyond that, you have a pretty flat tier of teams 2 through 7, and then you have a down tier from 8 through 10. So we're kind of in the middle of everybody. So looking at the waiver wire, thank God we can see that there are very clear things that we need to be doing immediately. So if we are looking at what we have with 2 wide receivers and 1 flex being the starting lineup requirements, There's no world in which you ever start Cedric Tillman. There's no world in which you ever start Hollywood Brown with this team. So what I would try to do is I would immediately, well, one, we may actually have to pick up another quarterback to cover for Jayden Daniels. So I think Jared Goff's probably our number one target on the waiver wire at the moment. I would cut Hollywood for Jared Goff. And also I would cut Cedric Tillman in favor of Byshell Tuten, because there is an outside chance that Tuten actually does turn into an every week starter, depending on if you were to get an injury to Travis Etienne, or Tuten just naturally continues to expand his role in this offense. Then going over and looking at what we have at wide receiver, we have Addison on waivers. Like, well, you're dropping Tillman, you're dropping Hollywood again for Tuten and Jared Goff. We're not necessarily prioritizing Addison, even if he is maybe the most valuable player on the waiver wire here. But I think for your team specifically, Goff and Tuten make a lot more sense. I think Tuten would be my number one pickup, because if you don't get Goff, you could have the backup plan of getting Jordan Love. But looking at running back, here's your saving grace, to be honest. The Aaron Jones injury. Jordan Mason's a must-start running back now. No Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason is going to be an auto lock into your lineup. And crap, who has Jordan Mason in the Flock League? I think it's my week 4 matchup. Which it is. I'm almost certain Sammy has Jordan Mason. And I'm almost certain that's who I'm playing week 4. Yeah, he has Jordan Mason. Crap. I'm going to have to play Jordan. I'm going to have to play against Jordan Mason week 4, which I'm not excited about, to say the least. But anyway, yeah, so this saves your butt. Being able to play Jordan Mason here in the short term at running back 2 behind Devon Achane at RB1. And then we have Trevion and Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt as rookies that are going to continue to get better as time goes on here. So while I agree that, like, running back before the Aaron Jones injury was very scary, because, like, hey, these rookies, they have upside. Like, obviously we can see Trevion Henderson long-term being somebody that we're really excited about, but in the short term, he's doing nothing. But that doesn't really matter now, because you don't need him in the short term. Going over and looking at wide receiver, one issue that you'd have with the team is, like, our wide receiver 2 position is going to be very difficult to predict who to put in the starting lineup every week. We're going to have, like, Terry, Devonta Smith, Ricky Pearsall, Jalen Waddle. So picking 2 of those guys to start will be a little bit frustrating. It is nice that we at least, I want to say, probably got the week 1 dub. There's no way we didn't win week 1, considering that we have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Achane as well. So we're going to be 1-1 here, so we have a little bit of flexibility. And as time goes on, you'd assume that 1 or 2 of these wide receivers really emerge. So I think you just got to be patient and let the rookies get better. And I think you can afford to be patient, because we have the Jordan Mason breakout with the Aaron Jones injury. So I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. But honestly, your team's perfect. You just cut Tillman, cut Hollywood, pick up Goff, pick up Tuten. If you don't get Goff, you pick up Jordan Love instead. And yeah, you don't need to be rostering this many wide receivers in a league which you only start 2 receivers in a flex. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way here. But it looks like we are 5 likes away from hitting 1,000 likes in the stream. And when we hit 1,000 likes, we're going to be giving away some free questions. So if you haven't already, go down there and drop a like on this live stream. Okay. Now let's move this over and check out our next team. This one is Kerr Winning. Says, Mason, I'm starting Fields, but was contemplating trading him for Goff. Thoughts on Goff over Fields? So at this point, I definitely have Jared Goff over Justin Fields on in my rankings, but it looks like I'm going to need to give out some free questions here real quick. So let me do that before we check out your team, because we just hit 1,000 likes on the stream. So again, they're sending out a ton of free questions in every single live stream. All you got to do to get them is drop a like on the stream, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat, and we'll go ahead and we are going to send out those free questions. Let me, we got to log out, log back in. You're going to have to give me a second to stall. Got too many windows open here right now. God, I gotta pee too. Can we hold it for an hour and a half? Because kickoff's earlier today than it normally is. Kickoff's at 7 p.m. Eastern today. We're gonna have a decent amount of football action too. Okay, we just got this pulled up successfully, I believe. Okay, let's find some people in the chat to send out those free questions to. First person's going to be UB_slippin'. Just found you and just sent you over that free start sit. Appreciate you hanging out with us in this stream. Let me find somebody else as well. We got Papa Z. Appreciate you hanging out with us, and let me send you over some free questions too. And somebody please remind me in the chat when we hit 1,100 likes on the stream, because then we'll go ahead and we'll send out some more of those free start sets. Okay. So now we need to pull up the screenshots here from Kerr Winning. And ooh, if I can hold my pee, it's going to be impressive. It's going to be a long night for me, because usually I record the videos for I record the Tuesday videos like afternoon on Monday before this live stream. But since we have 2 games tonight, I was like, you know what? I can't record those videos and then something happens that changes things. So let's hold off on recording them until after the games. So after the games tonight, I'm going to be live streaming a reaction. Obviously, if anything big happens, we'll need to update rankings. And also with that in mind as well, we'll be staying up late and recording those videos. All right, so let's go ahead and let's check this out now. This is from Kerr Winning. This is a league in which we start 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex spots. So because you have 2 flex spots here, quarterback production is going to be a little bit less important. Just because it's going to make up a slightly smaller percentage of our starting lineup output weekly. We have Fields at quarterback. I would say if Justin Fields is your QB, you definitely want to be rostering 2 of these guys. But we also had Brock Purdy go down. So we have the Purdy injury and the Justin Fields injury that we have to deal with at the same time. Going over and looking at what we can do from here. If we currently have Kittle on the IR, so Purdy we can't put there. I'd be fine if you wanted to cut one of these quarterbacks if you have a quarterback like Daniel Jones that you can go and pick up for free. Now, obviously, you can just look at my quarterback rankings on the site, and we have quarterbacks like Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, ranked both ahead of Brock Purdy and Justin Fields. And if you could get one of the quarterbacks swaps like that, then we'd be interested in it. But it's just going to be much easier said than done. Like, I don't know who's trading for Purdy. I don't know who's trading for Fields. If you have like that Goff offer sitting on the table right now, for the love of God, yes, trade Justin Fields for Jared Goff. And real quick, Herrick says, how do I get the $55 team review? It only gives me the option for $79. So the team reviews are priced differently dependent on if you have a paid account on flockfantasy.com. So say you got the $34 season pass with code FLOCK, then any question you ever buy on the site will be 30% off. So like the people who get it for $55, it's because they have the season pass. So when they go ahead and they get it, it's 30% off. But if you don't have anything on the site, then it's $79. But again, I would not recommend spending $79 on it. You can just get an annual membership and it comes free with that. But anyway, looking over at running back with this, like this team's incredible, right? Like I understand that quarterback's weak. But running back, we have Barkley, Bucky Irving. Then Alvin Kamara, RB3. Tony Pollard, RB4. David Montgomery, RB5. So we have a tremendous amount of depth at running back. Going over and looking at receiver, St. Brown wide receiver 1, Tyreek wide receiver 2, Metcalf wide receiver 3. Then on our bench, we have J-Mo and Tet McMillan and Calvin Ridley as like wide receiver 6. So here's the thing. You can afford to trade for an elite quarterback. I don't want to bother trading for Jared Goff. I want to go out there and with the team as good as yours, I want to trade for an elite QB. I want to go get Lamar. I want to go get Josh Allen. Like if we're looking at a team like this, where again, on your bench, you have Tet, J-Mo, Pollard, Montgomery, and Ridley. Like all these options in the starting lineup are expendable. The first thing I do is I'm going to the Josh Allen owner. I'm going to the Lamar Jackson owner. I'm going, hey, I'll give you Alvin Kamara and Justin Fields for one of those quarterbacks. If they say no, I'm upping the price. Go, hey, I'll give you Bucky Irving and Justin Fields for Josh Allen, which maybe seems like we're overpaying, but at the end of the day, if you have Tony Pollard on your bench and then Pollard can just slide into your starting lineup for free, why would we not do that? So your team is absolutely loaded. We even have Tucker Kraft at tight end and George Kittle in the long term. So I would go out there. I would try to overpay for the elite QB. You can afford it. You can send an RB1 like Bucky Irving. I would try to send Alvin Kamara first, but regardless. And then if that doesn't work, then yeah, I mean, really the only move that you're going to make is if you can flip Fields, if you could flip Purdy for somebody like Goff or Dak, we'll go for it. But again, I don't necessarily think that they're going to be that, like, you could just go to the waiver wire as well. And I would be fine cutting Brock Purdy for a waiver wire quarterback at this point, especially with how good your team is. There's no way that there are 12 teams in this league. So I'm assuming options at quarterback on the waiver wire are fine. But let me send you over some of those free questions just in case there's anything that you want to follow up with here. But obviously, absolutely phenomenal team here. Now, so let's move this over to our next question. This one's coming out from Elisom. So it's going to be 0-2, couple brutal breaks through the first 2 weeks. I like the team a lot, but the touchdowns haven't been there. Trades already come by in this league, but what's obvious to me is try to leverage Warren for a running back upgrade. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Really appreciate you, my friend. So we are the second team in the league analyzer. This is a 10-team league, so options on the waiver wire should be decent. While at the same time, it is a league in which we can start up to 4 wide receivers weekly, so the wide receiver depth does matter. Now, taking a look at quarterback, we have Herbert and Caleb. So, I mean, these are 2 quarterbacks that are in the range of guys that are realistically, we can roster 2. We can play the matchups between them weekly. It's not necessarily a spot in which you just absolutely have to go through and say like, oh, okay, yeah, cut Caleb Williams and go pick up Joe Mixon off the waiver wire. If you're not a massive believer in Justin Herbert and you don't think, hey, Herbert is my must-start quarterback every single week regardless of matchup, then completely fine to roster both these QBs. The weakest position on your team by far is going to be running back. We have Chase Brown RB1, which obviously gets hurt from the Joe Burrow injury. We have Trevion Henderson RB2, Ja'Cory Cross-Camara RB3, and DeAndre Swift RB4. So we are 100% in agreement. The only thing for this team to do is we got to send Tyler Warren and one of these running backs to get an upgrade at the running back position. Let's go through and let's look at these teams that have absolutely nothing at tight end. This team has David Njoku, and David Njoku is arguably the tight end 2 for the Cleveland Browns at this point. Let's offer them Tyler Warren and Chase Brown for Jahmyr Gibbs. Let's offer them Tyler Warren and DeAndre Swift for Amari and Hampton. I'm sending those 2 offers right this second. Let's go through and find another team that needs help at tight end. This team is Kelsey and Ferg. And I'm about to piss myself. Give me 20 seconds. When we get back, we'll send away some free questions. But let me go pee because I'm not going to be able to concentrate. Okay, let's go through this team review and then we'll get back to giving away some free questions. But yeah, let's try to see if we can find some other teams that need help at tight end. This team here, Kelsey and Ferg, they have Derrick Henry. I'm offering them Tyler Warren and Trevion for Henry. That's going to get rejected, but maybe we could go like Tyler Warren and DeAndre Swift for Kyron Williams. Maybe there's a shot that that deal gets done. Going through, this team is Bowers. They'll have no interest. This team is Kyle Pitts and TJ Hawkinson, and Hawkinson looks like a 0 at this point. One thing that you could do, if you have Tyler Warren and McBride, obviously it's not like the only name that we could sell here is Warren. You could look at selling Trey McBride as well. Like if you wanted to go through and if you wanted to send like the combination of Trey McBride as well as DeAndre Swift to get to Jonathan Taylor, or Trey McBride and Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt to get to Taylor, Trey McBride and Trevion Henderson to try to get to Barkley, we'll go for it. I'll offer Tyler Warren and Chase Brown to try to get to Barkley if we can. Going over and looking at receivers, Calvin Ridley's nothing on your team. Actually, that's a lie. This is a league in which you can start 4 wide receivers and 1 flex. I'm sorry, you can start up to 4 wide receivers here weekly. So if you can start up to 4 wide receivers here weekly, like Calvin Ridley, wide receiver 5 is actually quality depth with these league settings specifically. So the only thing that we would want to do with this team is leverage some of the tight end value that we have to get an upgrade at running back. And then if you can make that 2-for-1 deal where we send like Tyler Warren and Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt or Tyler Warren and DeAndre Swift to go get one of those running back upgrades that we discussed. With the open roster spot, the guy that I'd probably pick up, I would either be looking at Joe Mixon or Josh Downs. Probably Joe Mixon if we get any positive buzz coming out of him anytime soon. But you have a great team. Absolutely sucks with the Joe Burrow injury, negatively impacting both Chase Brown and Jamar Chase. I think you just try to sell one of those tight ends for the running back upgrade. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my guy. But let me make sure we send you over. Yeah, let's send you over those free questions in case there's anything that you want to follow up here. But it looks like we just hit 1,100 likes on the stream. So let's go ahead and let's send some free questions out in the live chat. All you got to do to get free questions is drop a like on the live stream, be subscribed to the channel, and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chats. And our next team that we're going to look at here is going to be from Drowsy. Okay. So let me pull this over. See if we can find some people in the chat. We got K_M_C. I'm going to be honest with you, my friend. Maybe I just need to refresh this page because the site's not wanting to find you. K_M_C. Just found you. I thought I wasn't going to be able to, but we just sent you over that free start set. Let's find somebody else here. We got 719 raised me. Let's see if I can find you. 719 raised me, just found you and just sent you over that free start set. Thank you so much for hanging out with us in the live stream. Okay. And now let's move this over and let's get back to answering some of these questions. And again, remind me when we hit 1,200 likes on the stream, then we'll go ahead and we will send out some more free vouchers. Drowsy says, suggest some running backs to pick up for Aaron Jones. Is Kincaid worth keeping? If not, who to replace him with? A quarterback to replace Burrow with? Thank you for the help. Appreciate you, my friend. It sounds like your team was just absolutely decimated. We can kind of see this with us being the 7th team in an 8-team league in the league analyzer. So Let's go through and let's figure this out. First waiver wire priority is going to be us picking up Tucker Kraft. For me, I'm not worried about replacing Kincaid. I think we got to replace Mark Andrews. 8-team league, Mark Andrews does not belong on a roster. For Andrews to not be producing when the Ravens are scoring this many points, while at the same time, you're in a world in which you have no Isaiah Likely, how is it going to get better when Likely comes back? So, I would go ahead, I would cut Andrews, I'd pick up Tucker Kraft. Looking at upside and upside only, I think we're going to be cutting Joe Burrow in favor of Drake May. Again, the only thing that matters in an 8-team league is upside. Don't care about the floor. And realistically, you have a decent ceiling with May given the rushing appeal. Looking at Quinshon Judkins and Cam Scatterbo, this is a league in which you can start up to 4 wide receivers weekly. So it's not like the wide receiver depth is meaningless. But you have 5 quality receivers. Like J-Mo's your wide receiver 5. So realistically speaking, I don't see how like Khalil Shakir ever hits your starting lineup. So I would probably go through and I would probably cut Shakir in favor of Judkins. And I think I would cut Aaron Jones as well in favor of Cam Scatterbo and hope that one of the rookie running backs continues their trajectory of just taking over as the starter. And then going over and looking at what we have with wide receivers, I even think Godwin has more upside than Shakir. But yeah, I think for now, to just keep it stupid simple, cut Andrews for Kraft, cut Aaron Jones and Shakir for Judkins and Scatterbo, and then cut Joe Burrow for Drake May. And then obviously, if you're in a spot in which you can put Joe Burrow on your IR and you don't have to cut him, then sure, do that. But we do need to eventually open up a roster spot. So whether that's cutting him or whether that's putting him on the IR, tomato, just open up the roster spot so we can pick up May and we have somebody to play the matchups with him and Goff. And I think just making those simple moves will move you up in the league analyzer a bit. I don't necessarily think that we are going to be like crushing it because to be honest with you, like, realistically, we are so far behind because of all the injuries that we've suffered. Not necessarily saying that it's your fault, of course, but I think it's also going to limit you in the amount of trades that you can make just because your team has been absolutely decimated. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this and definitely make all those waiver wire moves. Okay. Now let's move this over to Gramps being our next question. It says any help or suggestions are appreciated. So we are the #1 team in the league analyzer here. This is a 10-team league in which you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. So 10-team league in which you start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. It's a spot in which the wide receiver depth doesn't matter much. Like, even though we're the #1 team in the league analyzer, I don't love our current situation. Because we have like Travis Hunter, wide receiver 4, Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver 5, Jacoby Myers, wide receiver 6. So if you're in this scenario, like you just have so much value on your bench that we can't really get anything for. We had the George Kittle injury. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. It looks like running back is saved a bit given what we have with the Aaron Jones injury, bumping up Jordan Mason. And then obviously Javonte looks to be one of the best values that we've had at running back all year long. So I think a lot hinges on our ability to sell some of these receivers. But the issue is and a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. I know I keep on just repeating that record. But nobody's going to need Ricky Pearsall. Nobody's going to need Jacoby Myers. Nobody's selling those players. Nobody's buying those guys. So realistically, if you wanted to take advantage of some of this value that we had on the bench at receiver, you'd be selling one of the better options like Terry McLaurin, but Terry McLaurin's done absolutely nothing. And at the same time, you're in a spot where now we have the Jayden Daniels injury. So across the board, I think trade-wise, you're really limited. I think the team's good. Don't get me wrong. We have the most value in this league. I just don't like how much value is tied up with our bench wide receivers. A waiver wire, you cut Tank Bigsby, you pick up Byshell Tootin for sure. Long term, I would, if it wasn't for the Daniels injury, I would for sure tell you to drop Harold Fannin for Zach Ertz. Long term, I would love to try to sell one of the receivers with Baker Mayfield to get an upgrade at QB. But with that being said, I understand that you're not going to be able to sell Travis Hunter for anything right now. So eventually, if you can sell Terry McLaurin and Baker Mayfield, if we get a strong performance from Terry, where we can move up to a quarterback that's going to give us some rushing upside here, assuming that this is a 4-point rushing touchdown league, I think we would. But I don't like the fact that we are built around so much wide receiver depth, and I don't like the fact that based off how these depth receivers have performed, you're probably not going to be able to get much value out of them right now. But overall, obviously, again, good team, number 1 team in the league. We have Derrick Henry, CeeDee Lamb, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. But it would be a lot better if we are eventually able to get back in George Kittle, of course, especially in a format like this. But I really appreciate you and really hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this. Okay. Now let's move this over to our next question. Now, this next one's going to be from Trevor, longtime member of the flock. Always happy to see him, my guy. Says, about to be 0-4. We have median matchups as well in Sleeper. League Analyzer doesn't like the team much either, but I like most of my picks except Pacheco and Andrews. Okay, yeah. So running back and tight end we must be getting crushed. So we are currently the last team in the League Analyzer, and yeah, so it makes sense us being in a really tough spot. We have Daniels getting injured as well, which makes this that much worse. We have Baker and Michael Penix possibly as our QB2 and QB3 in an 8-team league for the time being. That is a really bad situation to be in. Running back, we have Saquon, we have JCM, we have Benson. Pacheco's turned to dust. Aaron Jones has turned to dust. Wide receiver, we have, and Trevor says we got to start 2 quarterbacks. Yeah, that's what I was saying. We have Nico, London, Evans, Pickens. We have the Worthy. Your team's just gotten wrecked. So looking at the replacement level players, I think the first thing we can say is I would drop Aaron Jones. I'd pick up Jaylen Warren. I would also drop both Hunter Henry and Mark Andrews for the combo of Dalton Kincaid and Jake Ferguson. I don't think you need to hold out hope with the tight ends here whatsoever. Looking at quarterback, hell, I would consider in a 4-point passing touchdown league, given the rushing upside that we've had from Daniel Jones and Daniel Jones performing against tough defenses as well, I would consider cutting Michael Penix for DJ. Daniel Jones for the first 2 weeks has been averaging about 25 points per game. So the moves that we're making right out the gate, drop Aaron Jones, pick up Jalen Warren, drop Hunter Henry, drop Mark Andrews, pick up Kincaid, pick up Ferg. And then I would consider dropping Michael Penix for Daniel Jones. Not something you have to do, though. Now, looking at what we have at receiver, the issue is this is a start 9 format. Now, I understand that 2 of those spots are QBs, so it's more so a traditional like start 8 league. But we're effectively like wanting to start 4 wide receivers here weekly because running back behind Barkley is not good right now. So I can't tell you like, oh yeah, let's sell Mike Evans and let's go get an upgraded QB. No. Because, I mean, if we're looking at this, you have the Xavier Worthy injury where it makes it where, like, we don't have that reliable last flex play. So, like, selling a wide receiver depth piece isn't the answer here. I think the only thing you could do with this team, based off the injuries where we lost Aaron Jones, we lost Worthy, possibly missing out on Daniels, Isaiah Pacheco's turned into literally nothing. I don't think you can afford 2-for-1 deals, even if we would like to do so. I think it's just those 4 waiver wire swaps. And after those 4 waiver wire swaps, I would imagine that we slide up the league analyzer here a bit. I'd imagine that we're not the last team anymore. We probably go up to 5th or 6th. But still not great. I wish you had expendable value. But the thing is also it's an 8-team league. So in an 8-team league, I'm never sending like, oh, Saquon Barkley for 2 other assets. We're never down tiering, right? We would only really want to be up tiering in an 8-team format. But I wish I had more for you. I'm obviously rooting for you, hoping that we are able to turn this around, my guy. Really appreciate you. And again, good luck. But I think like trades, you're very much limited here. Now, let's move this over and let's check this out for Bengals Super Bowl 2026. Says, I'm starting out the season well, but wanting to know what I should do going forward because I'm not super in love with the team. Thanks, Mason. Love the content. Appreciate you, my friend. Now, Buzzy Bandits, we are the 2nd team in the league analyzer. Here, looking at the squad, waiver wire wise, drop Michael Mayer, pick up Zach Ertz pretty easily. It sounds like Bowers is going to be good to go. Like, really not much hesitation with Bowers at this moment. And then with that in mind, I would also go over and look at what we have with the running back position. Jayden Blue continued to not be involved. And at the same time, we have Javonte Williams actually performing well, where it's not like this is a position where you can say that the Cowboys absolutely need to make a swap. So I'd probably cut Jayden Blue in favor of Tyler Algier. If this was a league in which you don't have the IR slot where you can put Tajee Spears in it and you are just holding on Spears hoping that something happens, I would probably also be willing to go ahead and cut Tajee Spears. But I'm assuming that this is a league in which you have an IR slot, right? But again, if not, I would cut Spears. I would pick up Rachaad White. And also, I think I would cut Braylon Allen and I would pick up Caleb Johnson. I think I would essentially churn the bottom 3 running backs on my team for the top 3 running backs here on the waiver wire. Tyler Algier would be my number 1 priority. Jayden Blue would be my number 1 drop. Going over, looking at receivers, we're not making any swaps there. This is a league in which depth matters a tremendous amount, though. This is a start 9 format. So, like, you have Bo Nix, Brock Bowers into your lineup. And then with the skill positions, we got to start 7 guys. So, like, let's say at running back, we have the combo of Achane, Brees. Then beyond that, wide receivers, we're starting Puka, JSN, Tet, Rome, and Terry. So I can't really tell you like, oh yeah, let's go sell one of these depth receivers for a quarterback upgrade, because with your league settings, we actually really need to be holding on to all the wide receivers we can. Looking at what we have with potential flips at running back, like the Aaron Jones loss negatively hurts us. Obviously, we get the upside with Bichelle too. I mean, I would love to upgrade over Breece Hall at RB2. But again, the depth isn't really there for us to be able to make that trade. I think really the only thing you can do with this roster, I know it's similar to what we said with the last one, is you just have to make those like 4 or 5 waiver wire pivots. But I'm not going to lie, I think after you make those like 3, 4, 5 waiver wire pivots, however many we can do, you probably should expect to go to the number 1 spot in the league analyzer. And again, we are just really hoping that the wide receivers get us there, because when it comes to what we have at running back, not the most exciting situation. But let me move this over. Let me see how many likes we're at. See if we need to send out some more free questions. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. Let's move this back, and I am sorry for the holdup with this. I'm just making sure we got everything covered. All right, let's move this over to our next team. I think we should be able to turn questions back on relatively soon. Looks like we got 3 more teams that we got to get through. Okay. Let's move this over. Real WG says league is a 1/4 point per reception and 0.13 points per rushing attempt. So if you only get a 1/4 point per reception and you get essentially 0.13 points per rushing attempt, you are in a spot, in my opinion, in which you should treat it as if it's a non-PPR league. Running backs will be king. Wide receivers aren't going to be optimal for the flex. And quarterbacks are going to make up a really high percentage of our starting lineup output, especially the quarterbacks that can run the ball. But again, we really, really want to go through and we really want to hammer RBs. No one's trying to trade right now, so I have to drop someone to get Jones off waivers. Who should I cut from the team? What moves should I make? Do you see any offers we can make to get our running backs, to get better wide receivers? Should we leave it as is? So we're the number 1 team in the league analyzer, but I'm going to be honest with you. The league analyzer here is probably going to undervalue running backs and overvalue wide receivers for your league. So the fact that we're the number 1 team in the league analyzer and we're the number 1 team at running back in your league tells me that we should be by far and away better than everybody else in this league. It shouldn't even be remotely close. Like going through and looking at this, week 1, we did lose, but we did actually outscore like the majority of our league week 1. And that was a week in which Jahmyr Gibbs fell flat. That was a week in which like Ladd McConkey fell flat. So I think you're going to be in a really good spot. Here, quarterback, we have Jayden Daniels. I like having the elite quarterback. I also especially like having the quarterback that can run the ball in your league. Now, the difficulty with this is going to be the spot in which if Daniels does miss, we're going to have to go through and we're going to have to try to pick somebody up. So if we're going to get Daniel Jones, I think you got to drop Keenan Allen. Like if you look at my rankings, I have Nick Chubb in most leagues ranked ahead of Keenan. But specifically here for you, I think that you'd be much better off dropping Keenan since it's a league in which you can only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. And since it's effectively a non-PPR format, I'm never wanting to put a wide receiver in my flex spot. So I drop Keenan, I'd pick up Daniel Jones. Looking at running back, I mean, hell, I'd been telling a lot of people to pick up Caleb Johnson previously. However, I don't necessarily know if we can like drop someone here. I can't drop Nick Chubb for Caleb Johnson at this point. Maybe if Nick Chubb looks horrendous tonight, or if Woody Marks completely takes over, but in a non-PPR format, Nick Chubb could actually be a viable flex play in your league. Wide receiver, I only really care about having 2 guys that we can trust weekly. We're never putting one of these in the flex. We have Ladd and Marv. That's good enough. We have the upside of Hunter, Jawan, Golden. I don't want to be rostering this many receivers if I'm never flexing one. So I drop Keenan like we discussed. And then tight end's going to make up such a small percentage of your starting lineup output in comparison to running back here that I don't care about tight end at all. So we have Kelsey, and like not super excited about Kelsey. I know you're mentioning like trading away running backs to get a better receiver. If your league mates can like truly comprehend the upside that you're going to get if you were to give them like a Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt in this type of format, then sure, like if you could send Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt and Marvin Harrison and go get like Nico Collins, then we'll do it. But I do want to reiterate that like running back's going to be so much more important here. I like the fact that you have the hammers at RB and then you can throw in running back in the flex spot every single week. So I drop Keenan Allen. We pick up Daniel Jones, and I would say, F it. Your league mates are going to come running for running backs where we have the best running back room in the league. And this is by far and away the most important position given your scoring. And I would drop Keenan because, again, I don't necessarily think you need the wide receiver depth. Like, if anything, I'm thinking of like, how can I sell Travis Hunter and Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt to get an elite RB for the flex? That's where my mind's at. But honestly, Jordan Mason looks like he's going to be an auto start for you with the Aaron Jones injury over the next few weeks. And I think you should be able to run away with this league. But I really appreciate you and wish I had more to say for you. I'm going to send over some free questions, but you have the number 1 team in the league analyzer. We're the number 1 team at running back in the league. And running back's the most important position in your league. So appreciate you and really hope you can crush it this year, but I think you will. But it looks like we just hit 1,200 likes in the stream. So we'll go ahead and we'll send out some more free questions in the chat. All you got to do to get those free questions that we're sending out in every single live stream is make sure you drop a like on the live stream, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. But let's move this over to Manny. Manny here says, hey Mason, I know I'm late, but congrats on the engagement. Thank you, my friend. Happy for you. Let me know if there are any moves I could do. Good luck this year. Thank you. This is a deep, deep, deep league. This is a 14-team format where you need to start 8 players weekly. So for me, I always say in a league like this, you know what? I'm fine punting tight end. Like the onesie positions aren't as important because wide receiver and running back are going to be very hard to come by. So let's go ahead and let's pull this up. And yeah, we are in a difficult spot. Let me send you over some free questions real quick. And then let's find some people in the chat to send over some free questions as well. So let's go. We got iCave. Let me send you over a free question if I can find you, my friend. And the site's not wanting to cooperate for me. Let's refresh and see if it will work now. iCave. And also, I have an important question I got to ask y'all. The fiance said she's going to cook tonight, but I really just want to get takeout. So how do I tell her, hey, I would rather you not cook, and I would rather us pick up Thai food. If anybody has recommendations, I'm all ears. I can't find you. I don't know if this is an issue on our end or you didn't use code FLOCK in your account. I am very sorry for that. Let's go to the next man up. Next man up, I found you, no problem. And just sent you over that free start sit. So I'm assuming iCave, maybe you just didn't use code FLOCK when you signed up. If you don't have a code on your account, you can always add it to your account page. Okay. Now, let's see. Jabon with our next one. Jabon, I cannot find you on the site. Sorry, don't know if you use code FLOCK. Let's see. God dang, my computer is spazzing. Let's see if we can find Tsunami, bro. Tsunami, bro, just found you. And just sent you over that free start set. Thank you so much for hanging out with us in the live stream. But let's get this back over and let's check out this team for Manny. Again, I want to reiterate, this is going to be a very, very deep league. Expect options on the waiver wire to be garbage. And at the same time, expect trades to be very difficult to come by. Like where it's going to be extremely tough to sell 2 players for 1 ever. Looking at what we have at quarterback, we have Daniel Jones and McCarthy. Am I going to sit here and say that we're in a good position with Daniel Jones as our quarterback? No. Is it horrendous? Not really, because Daniel Jones does give us some rushing upside. Looking at what we have at running back, I would say that after the Jamar Chase injury, this is probably the strongest position on our team because we still have an RB1 with Jonathan Taylor. And in a 14-team format, I think Amari and Hampton could be an RB1 as well. We have Ramondre Stevenson as actually a quality flex play here in the short term. So for me, if we were looking at what we could do here at running back, I actually think that there are a couple interesting waiver wire pivots. Like, I think we would go ahead and I think we would obviously move on from Austin Eckler. Eckler's never going to play this year. I would cut Eckler. I would pick up Tank Bigsby. And I would also cut Chris Rodriguez. As it does look like Chris Rodriguez is probably going to be the 3rd running back in Washington regardless. And I would pick up DJ Giddens. As I think with both Bigsby as well as DJ Giddens, you're an injury away from either running back turning into an every week starter. Going over and looking at what we have at wide receiver. We have Jamar Chase. We have Pickens. We have Worthy. Thank God Keenan is a gift from God in a league like this. Like you're starting Keenan every week. Then we have Kayshon Boutte and Romeo Doubs. I would consider cutting Doubs for Troy Franklin. I'm not going to fault you if you don't want to do it. However, just because if we are going to be looking at Doubs, of course, it's a spot in which the Jayden Reed injury makes him a lot more interesting. And then we have the elite tight end with Tyler Warren. And then I would say in a lot of 14-team formats, you know what I'd want to do? I'd want to go through and I'd want to actually trade away Tyler Warren and get another viable wide receiver play. But I think the saving grace for you here is just going to be the fact that we have Xavier Worthy potentially coming back this next week. So the last thing I'd want to do is tell you like, oh yeah, let's go down tier from Tyler Warren. And then Xavier Worthy comes back and it turns out that we are actually okay at wide receiver. Sorry, I'm just sitting here thinking, like, what could you do with this team? Let's go explore some teams that maybe have a ton of value. This team has Waddle as their wide receiver 4. They also have Kyle Pitts. I would offer them Tyler Warren for Igbuka and Kyle Pitts to just get that wide receiver starter. And also, they have Michael Penix. You could maybe go like, hey, I'll give you Tyler Warren and McCarthy. Give me Kyle Pitts, Penix, and Igbuka. Get the extra QB and get the extra wide receiver starter in a 14-team format where they're going to matter. Going over and looking at this team here, this team wide receiver is not strong enough. They're more so built around RB. Who is the second best wide receiver room in this league? This team has Amon-Ra, T. Higgins. They have Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver 4. Maybe you could offer like Tyler Warren for Higgins as well as Jake Ferguson, just because wide receiver depth is going to be so difficult to come by here. And we're going to hope then in that instance that maybe you get in a trade for Jameis. If you get a trade for Jameis, then all of a sudden it's GG's with T. Higgins. Going over and looking at this team is the 4th team in this league at wide receiver. They really need a running back. This team is just garbage, right? This team has no idea what they're doing. I'm not even going to try to make them an offer. They have Najee Harris as their RB2, and they have Quentin Johnson as their wide receiver 2. Like, what could they possibly give us? They have Bowers and Tucker Kraft. They really need to be looking to sell a tight end. This team is Loveland and Michael Mayer as their current 2 tight ends. The thing is, like, we can't get Loveland back. Loveland's not startable. Like, you would need somebody like Ferg back with those trades. So the only thing that I would consider is trading Tyler Warren to go get that wide receiver additional starter here, just because you need to start so many receivers and it's a 14-team league where depth's going to be hard to come by. But I wouldn't fault you whatsoever if you wanted to wait and you wanted to get confirmation that Xavier Worthy was going to be out before you made that swap. Because if you end up getting Worthy good to go, then obviously you're going to be fine. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. Now, let's move this over to our next question. This is going to be coming out from C. Fetty. Always happy to see you. I know you're always out here with us. Let me send you over some free questions. It says, what trades should we look to make? So this is going to be a very, very different team than what we saw with the last one. This is a 12-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, where we are by far and away the best team in this league. Right now, Devon Achane's our RB3. Derrick Henry's our RB2. We reasonably have 4 round 1 picks. We have McCaffrey, Henry, Achane, CeeDee Lamb. This seems unbelievable. Super easy moves early. Drop Ollie Gordon, pick up Byshell Tootin. Drop Kayshon Boutte, pick up Troy Franklin. Drop Jonnu Smith, pick up Harold Fannin. 3 things we're doing right out the gate. But realistically, what I think this team also should be trying to accomplish is we need to send a skill positional name and go get an elite tight end. You are so much better than anybody else in your league, and it's not even remotely close, to the point where, why don't we have Brock Bowers on this? Why don't we have Trey McBride on this? Like, let's go and look at the teams that need help at other positions. Like, this team has Brock Bowers and Tucker Kraft. However, their running back room's decimated. Like, is there a world in which we can send them? I will see what we'll see what Bowers does tonight, because in a vacuum, I have Achane ranked well ahead of Bowers. But could we send them like Achane and Travis Hunter to get back Bowers and Mike Evans? Where we essentially downgrade from Achane to Bowers, but obviously we get Achane's our running back 3. We can afford it. And we get to upgrade at wide receiver for our wide receiver 2. The other thing that's worth noting is this team has Tucker Kraft as well. You could always just try to send them like a depth piece, like send them Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, who's our running back 4, for Tucker Kraft. Like, that could be a win-win deal for both parties. They don't really need help at wide receiver, though. Going over and looking at the other squad that has the elite tight end with Trey McBride. This team, I would say wide receivers, their bigger need. I mean, they have enough starters. They just don't necessarily have that top-end player. But if we were trying to get McBride from, I mean, hell, running back 3 is Tyler Algier for them. You could also try to send them like Achane for Trey McBride and then an upgrade elsewhere. But the issue is they don't really have an upgrade elsewhere to give you. If we could go like Achane, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt for Chase Brown and Trey McBride, we'd love to do so. But again, that's just simply we're probably not going to be able to pull that off. If you could go like Achane and Travis Hunter for Rome Odunze and Trey McBride, let's go for it. One other thing that we could explore is selling Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who's our running back 4 that's never going to hit our starting lineup, and a 2-for-1 deal with one of these receivers like Tet and try to go get an upgraded receiver. Like, can we sort by the teams that have the worst running back room in the league? This team has Sean Judkins and Nick Chubb as their 2 running backs. I'm going to offer them Bill Krosky-Merritt for Rashee Rice. We're never starting Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. However, Rice could eventually turn into our wide receiver 2 long term. This team is Trevion Henderson, RJ Harvey, Brian Robinson. Could we send them the combo of Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and Tet McMillan for Drake London? Obviously, I'll send the offer for Neighbors, but we're just expecting that to be an auto reject. This team here is sitting with Kamara, Jalen Warren, Isaiah Pacheco. And that's the Brock Bowers team. So we've already discussed making a trade with them. Overall, you need to make a trade. You need to sell some depth with the skill positions, either to get an elite upgrade with a skill positional name, or you need to go through and you need to get an elite tight end. But this is a 12-team format where Achane is the 4th most valuable player on our team. Just absolutely ridiculous here. But I really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. Let me make sure that we send you over some of those free questions. Yeah, you have them in your account. Incredible team. Nobody in your league can even come close to touching you, to be honest. Let me refresh this, see if we have any more of those questions coming in. Looks like Futron came in with this one, says, should I drop Pacheco and Aaron Jones to try to get Scat and Purdy off the waiver wire? Should we get Wandale off the waiver wires for Devonta too? No. Let's pause this and let's take a look at things. Let me send you over these free questions. That way, if there's anything that you want to follow up after we're done looking at this. So right now we are the 3rd team in the league analyzer, and it looks like you should be able to win your league. It looks like your league mates don't have a great sense of what's going on. This team here at the very bottom is rostering 3 tight ends, and one of them is Pat Freiermuth. So looking at what we can do, let's first start with the waiver wire pivots. Now, this is a league in which you start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. So if it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format, the wide receiver depth's not really going to matter. And we are really incentivized to have the elite quarterback. We are really incentivized to have the elite tight end and the elite running backs, which is exactly what we have, right? We have Brock Bowers, we have Gibbs, we have Hampton, and we even have Malik Neighbors, Mike Evans. This is a phenomenal team. Now, I think that if we are looking at waiver wire moves, do not drop Devonta Smith. If you were going to drop a receiver here, it will be Michael Pittman Jr. And Marksy says, how do I have him look at my team? Usually you would send it in on flockfantasy.com, but we are a little bit behind, so we have him off right now. Here's what I'll do. I will turn on the trade questions, because we'll probably have time to get through some trade questions after this team review. Actually, I'm going to turn on team reviews and trade questions. The team reviews, if you were to submit one over the next 20 minutes, which is going to be the window that it's open, it's not going to be answered until the live stream tomorrow. So if you send in a trade question within the next 10 minutes, we'll look at it before the games tonight. If you send in a team review, it'll be answered in the stream tomorrow. Those are both on the site now. Now, anyway, with Futron, RJ is our RB4, Charbonnet's our RB5, Pacheco RB6, Aaron Jones RB7. So for me, if I was looking at cutting players, I think Aaron Jones would be a cut with a hamstring injury in favor of Cam Scadaboo, who's currently taking over as the starting running back in New York. Now, the second thing that I want to reference is we very easily can afford to sell one of these running backs. I think Amari and Hampton is set up to absolutely crush. Again, Najee Harris only had 1 touch last week. But still, if you could possibly flip Hampton and Baker Mayfield to go get to a true elite level quarterback, one of those top 2 names with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, I would absolutely love to do so. Because then Javonte slides into our RB2 spot. In the long term, we have RJ Harvey. And then we have running backs on the bench with a ton of upside as well. And then Rome Odunze looks like he's a super quality flex play. And we have the elite level tight end. So if you were wanting to actually pick up a quarterback off the waiver wire, I'm not picking up Brock Purdy. The quarterback on the waiver wire that would be interesting would be Drake May. If you wanted to drop Isaiah Pacheco with how good your running back room is, you could drop Pacheco and Aaron Jones for the combination of Scadaboo and Drake May. But do not, and I want to repeat, do not drop Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith is still going to be a very good receiver and much better than Josh Downs, even if we haven't had the passing volume yet in Philly. Now, looking at other potential moves that we can make with this team, I don't really see any outside of trading Amari and Hampton for the elite quarterback if we're able to. And then those simple waiver wire pivots. But again, I think you have a phenomenal team here. I think that you're in a really good spot. Beto says, Mason, I know you opened up trade questions. What about start sit? I'm not answering start sit questions on a Monday. Like, I don't even know the week 3 matchups, to be honest with you. I think that's going to be something that we are a little bit smarter about in live streams going forward, where I think we're going to have the start set questions only open on like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't know if we're going to have start sets open on Monday or Tuesday, just because it's way too early for me to be able to like try to tell you. I'll open up Super Message for you, my guy. I'll open that up. But let me go ahead, submit this over to Futron, and we will hide the team reviews and we'll get to the trade, start, sit, and super messages. Let's see how many came in. Maybe we need a... Okay, no, we are completely manageable. We can look at these easily. Now, the Soaring Eagle trading Calvin Ridley and Kincaid for Tyler Warren. This is a no-brainer. You go get Tyler Warren. Especially, is this a dynasty league? This is a dynasty format. It's going to be Tyler Warren by a mile. Not even remotely close. But I would even do it if it's a redraft format. I don't even know look at the team. Walshy says, I'm ranked 8 out of 12. Do I pivot to Burrow for 2026? What's the league record right now? We are ranked 8 out. Are you saying in the standings we're 8 out of 12? If this is our team here, like, yeah, you're not in a great spot to contend. Here, give me 1 second. Okay, I am very sorry about that. And we got Jimmy coming through with the donor. Appreciate you, my guy. But here in a dynasty league, I would say at this point, I need to update my dynasty rankings, of course. But based off what we've seen with Drake May and with the Burrow injury, if I was trading May for Burrow, I'm not adding to it. I understand if you want to pivot over to a rebuild, by all means, you can go through and you can look at swapping them. But I think you're giving the Joe Burrow team a sweetheart deal in that case. I'll try to get another piece. Now, our next question coming out from Hannah. Trading Quinshon Judkins, Jordan Addison for Jalen Hurts and Quentin Johnston. So, 1 quarterback redraft formats. We already have a bunch of QBs. Wide receiver would be left over with London, Wilson, Devonta Smith, Ricky Pearsall. So, plenty of wide receiver depth. Running back, we'd have Chase Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah, I think you can make this move. Let's go get the elite quarterback with Jalen Hurts. But it looks like we just hit 1,300 likes on the stream. So we'll go ahead and we'll give away some more free questions in the chat. Again, all you got to do to get those free questions will be drop a like on the live stream and subscribe to the channel. We're giving away a ton of free questions every single stream. As you can tell, the majority of the questions that we answer are free ones. So highly recommend subscribing and drop your flogfantasy.com username in the chat so we know who to send those questions to. Now we got to actually log out, log in. So, and am I lagging to y'all? Seems like the computer's not keeping up with the stream. Okay, let's go ahead and log back in here. All right. So let's see if I can find some of y'all on the site to send those free questions over to. God, I know I told y'all I wanted to get takeout. I wanted Thai food so bad, and I hear the fiance in there cooking. And I'm like, oh, brutal. Brutal run out for your boy. Okay. So what are we doing right now? We're supposed to be looking up people to give out free questions to, aren't we? Okay, let's send one out to Ravens fan CJ. Appreciate you always hanging out with us on the stream, my guy. Just sent that free start sit question over to you. And we got Bear Down 86. Can I find you on the site? Bear Down. Got a lot of Bear Downs on the site. Bear Down 86. Just found you and just sent you over that free start set. Thank you for hanging out with us in the stream. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get into these. Hannah, we already answered this. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Jalen Hurts. Skittles Hell says, hey, Mason, when you do this trade, if it was just Smith, Kelsey, and Sampson for Hampton Brown. Okay, So essentially you're saying we remove Kupp, who's a 0 in this deal for us, but we also remove Kittle. Well, how this is situated right now is I would way rather have Hampton. This is super easy, the Hampton and A.J. Brown side. You could take out Kittle and leave Kupp in here, and I'd still rather have this side of the deal. Yeah, so you are running away with this if you're the Hampton side. Please go that direction. Money Mullen says, just made this trade. I got Judkins. I needed a running back badly. Yeah, I have Judkins ranked over Dak Prescott, especially if you needed a running back. Judkins looks like he is just taking over as a starting running back and super talented player as well. The problem is going to be that the offense is horrible. Now, Texas Size trading Pollard and Brian Thomas for Jordan Mason and Jefferson. Yeah, we're for sure going to go with the Jefferson side of this because with no Aaron Jones, it's not like Jordan Mason in the short term is going to be that far off as opposed to what we have with Pollard. Now, Kananchi trading Pacheco and Barr for Jonathan Taylor. Pacheco's almost a 0 now. Like, if you could get anything close to this kind of value for Pacheco, you do it. This is Jonathan Taylor by a mile. Ravens flock trading Chuba for Kamara. I would rather have Kamara here in a full PPR format. Both offenses are garbage. 40 says, any advice will help. I know I need some tight end help. Appreciate you and congrats on the engagement. Thank you. If you're looking for a tight end, I can't even see your team, my guy. I'll send you over a couple of free questions. But yeah, you submitted a trade question here. It didn't put anything in, but I'm going to send you over the free vouchers. That way, in case you have anything specific you want me to look at, I'd be super happy to try to help you out, my guy. But Ryan with the trade says he wants wide receiver depth. I'm dropping Andrews anyway. So Ladd to Chase, clear upgrade. Egbuka versus Rome, lateral move. Like, we're paying Flowers and Ladd to get to Jamar Chase. I'd rather Jamar Chase here. And we're going to send up a prayer that the Bengals trade for Winston or Cousins. Either one would be great. Big Ham trading Jefferson for Marvin Etienne. It's a 12-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Right now, our running back is James Cook, Jordan Mason. So, no, you don't need to make this move. You want Justin Jefferson here. Jordan Mason looks like he's going to cover your running back, too, in the short term. And you can get Trevion Henderson in the long term. Now, just the two of us is Kyron Williams, DK Metcalf versus Jonathan Taylor and Mike Evans. I don't know if I'm missing something. I'd way rather have Jonathan Taylor over Kyron Williams, and I'd rather have Mike Evans over DK Metcalf. So this is very easily the Jonathan Taylor side. But maybe I'm missing something there because that doesn't feel close at all. So let's see this. Renaud coming through. It says T. Higgins and Romeo Doubs versus Trey Benson and Cortland Sutton. Higgins versus Sutton, they're the same for me after the Burrow injury. But I would rather have Trey Benson over Romeo Doubs. Even with the injury to Jaden Reed, I don't know if Doubs can turn into a must-start player. It's more of like a best ball option. Where Trey Benson, you get an injury to James Conner. Trey Benson's an every week starter. So we're going to go with the Benson and Sutton side. Beto coming in with a massive dono. Always excited to see you, my guy. Let me make sure that you have those free questions over in your account. So we'll send you over some more right now. So say Mason, JJ and Brock hurt. Okay, Brock Purdy. Okay, I was sitting here thinking Brock Bowers. Like, no, I think Bowers is good to go, but no Purdy, yeah. Daniel Jones is the best option on the waiver wire. I know if you guys are targeting him, how much fab would you use? It's a 12-team PPR format. So, Beto, can you let me know the other quarterbacks that are available on your waiver wire right now? I know you're in the chat. Let me know your other quarterbacks because this is a little bit more of a nuanced thing. So I want to try to give you the best answer that I can. So give me like the top 5 QBs on your waiver wire, and then we'll answer that. Now, Schmitty says, made this trade need a tight end. So Evans to Tyreek, lateral move, Kyle Pitts to Tucker Kraft, clear upgrade. Yeah, I think it's a completely fair price point to go out there and get Tucker Kraft. So we'll take the Tucker and Tyreek side. But we'll wait here for Beto just 1 second in the chat so we can give him a better answer. Because it's very dependent on your league, right? Because in the Flock League, for instance, like I'm pretty sure Jared Goff's on our waiver wire. Like most people are only rostering 1 QB. But I've seen leagues where people are rostering 3 QBs. Okay. Mike says like Buka or Myers tonight. I'm going to go with the Buka now that you have Brock Bowers good to go. Beto says Penix, Stroud, Daniel Jones, Geno too. So it sounds like most people are rostering 2 QBs in your league. I wouldn't go that aggressive. You really need a quarterback for like a month. And I don't necessarily know how much better Daniel Jones is than playing the matchups between those other guys. I understand that Daniel Jones has absolutely crushed it through the first 2 weeks, but we have a pretty large sample of Daniel Jones not necessarily being reliable in fantasy. I know like this probably doesn't get you him, but I think the thing is if you can pick up another quarterback for free, we probably go in that direction. I know Daniel Jones has been great, but it's been 2 weeks. Like Daniel Jones is definitely my favorite quarterback out of that list. I'm assuming the thing is you're probably going to be dropping J.J. McCarthy for him, which I do have Daniel Jones ranked over McCarthy. And obviously we need Daniel Jones here if we have both Purdy and McCarthy injured. I would probably only go like 15%. Like I understand, yeah, the Colt situation's much, much better. Maybe if you wanted to push it up to 25%. But if I'm ranking Daniel Jones the rest of season, I think I have him like QB 14, QB 15. Like I think once Brock Purdy's back in, you're probably starting Brock Purdy over him. So even if you have other people in your league that are going for him, and I know we have so many injuries right now. We have the Daniels injury, we have the Burrow injury, we have the McCarthy injury, we have the Purdy injury. I'm probably only going 15 to 20%. But again, I don't think you need to stress too much if you don't get him, my guy, because you could ultimately just kind of stream the other plays. But I really appreciate you. And like I said, I sent you over some more of those free questions. So if there's anything else you want to follow up with. But it looks like we got through all the questions for today. So we are going to call it here so we can pull up the games, watch those. But I don't think I have anything else. Obviously, we have the Dynasty team reviews I still need to get through. We're going to do a dedicated Dynasty live stream for those. Looks like we have 4 team reviews that came in. Over the past, what's it called? 4 team reviews came in over the past few minutes, which, like I said, those will be the first things that we do in the live stream tomorrow. But I really appreciate you. Of course, I'm going to be live streaming after the games tonight, talking about everything that happened, updating rankings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to come out then, I would love it if you go down there, subscribe to the channel. And if you hit the bell next to the subscribe button, YouTube is going to tell you when we go live, which we are live streaming every single day, answering as many questions as we possibly can. And the majority of them are those free questions as well. But I really appreciate y'all and really hope we get a good game. And we need Hampton to go like under 6 points if we're going to win our matchup this week, which looks unlikely, but you never know. Maybe, just maybe it happens.